2023. It is 6:01 p.m. Karen, our clerk, if you would do a roll call of who is present, please?
Mayor Myers,
Here?
Commissioner DeVito, here, Commissioner Banks,
Here.
Commissioner Burton,
Here.
Commissioner Laurie,
Here.
Charles Wright, City Manager.
Here.
Captain Osprey, Putnam County Sheriff's Office,
Here.
Bobby Pickens, City Attorney,
Here.
Dale Walker, Finance Director,
Here.
Pamela Taylor, Code Enforcement Officer.
Looks like everyone is present. Thank you, everyone, for coming out this evening. With that, Commissioner Banks, if you would please lead us in our invocation, please stand at your table.
Most gracious Holy Father, we thank you today for our life, health, and our strength, the reasonable part of our mind. God, we pray for this commission, pray for our community, it's Jason, our community. We just pray for people everywhere, the situation in this world. Continue to bless us and lead us and guide us. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, we're going to need to move the flag.
I forgot.
I did
In
too.
this microphone too.
We all did. Nobody is guilty of anything. We all forgot, so, but we'll go ahead and possibly do that afterwards, and you can tell us where, it's best, and we're going to do that.
And Mayor, that will help me too, because I have to do a 180 and it's hard not to trip sometimes, so, and I look forward to it.
Okay, with that, boy, we've got a lot of announcements. First off, I just want to say it's been so far a very busy month since we all last met. We had our Yappy Hour, we had our Fall Festival, the largest attendance that we have had thus far. And then that led us into Trick or Treat. And again, thank you to our Putnam County Sheriff's Office. They and all the volunteers and all the civic organizations and the business owners and the residents made this probably the largest one that we've ever had. I think we thought, Holly said possibly over 1,500 children came through. A lot of the homes ran out of candy at right about 7 o'clock. So it was a successful evening, and I will say that at 8:45, when I went out and drove around just to check on things with the amount of people we had in our downtown area, I was just so proud and amazed. There was nobody on the streets. You would have thought there had never been anybody out there. The town quieted down, and it was just, houses were dealing with all the children and the sugar. That led us into our second annual Day of the Dead. And for those of you that came out to that, it too was just a wonderful success as we celebrated this Hispanic celebration of life, or death. And so it was just a great event. Again, thank you to everyone that came out. That leads us into everything we have going on here forward. The Veterans Day March is going to be this Saturday. They want you to line up at South State Bank, starting probably about 10 o'clock. And the march will be from South State Bank at 11, starting at 11, and it will take us down to Eagle Lion Park. Everyone is encouraged, whether you are a veteran, whether you know a veteran, get out there and let's show our support. I know they're going to have, I believe they're doing hot dogs and having some refreshments. Daniel Jones from South Putnam Church, he's going to be offering the prayer, and it should be a really nice celebration. They worked really hard on it this year. Lawrence Coleman, as most of you know, we lost him last year, and just before the parade, and as a matter of fact, this last week it's been a year. And so I know that he'll be there in spirit and in everyone's hearts and their minds too. After that, we're gonna have Thanksgiving. So I hope everybody enjoys their Thanksgiving. And beginning the next evening on the 24th, Friday the 24th, we're going to have our light up celebration where we actually turn the lights on in Eagle Line Park. I know you've seen Charles in the skyline out there. You've seen a lot of volunteers that have been out there helping. I see Liz Gomez is there, Rachel, both of them have been out there. We've had just so many people that have stopped in and just said, how can we help put these up? So that's going to start that evening. It'll be from 5 to 7. We'll have the Schwartz family, they're going to be singing, and we'll have music handed out. We'll have carolers, Purple Plum Players will be there, and they'll be in costume. We're gonna have Jack Field, he is our puppeteer, he'll be there from 5 to 6. Santa will be there from 5 to 7. So it'll just be just a really nice evening, bring your family, and come out and enjoy the lights. And then December 2nd, the following weekend, on that Saturday, we have the Downtown Partnership. They've taken on quite a few of these along with a lot of the other civic organizations. But they've taken on the parade this year. The Lions Club has passed the baton. And we've got people just coming out of the woodwork wanting to get in the parade. So if you want to get in the parade, now is your opportunity. Reach out to Karen, she can probably give you Trish's or whoever's name that you need to do that. We have floats coming in, it's gonna be a really big parade this time. They're asking you to line up at 11, and this is on Saturday the 2nd. And South State Bank, and the overflow will go down Magnolia. The parade is gonna start at 1 o'clock, and it's gonna go all the way down Summit Street, leading us into the 2 o'clock holiday market, which will be on Central Avenue, down by towards Park. I believe it's gonna be from Park to Lake is going to be the holiday market. And that will be from 2 until the fireworks. And we'll have our yacht club is doing their annual Christmas holiday fireworks. And that will be at dusk that evening. And with that, we've got several other things going on. This Tuesday evening at Mystic Bistro, our SBDC, that's our small business development, they're doing a social hour at Mystic Bistro from 5:30 to 7:30. Tips for creating staffing, sourcing, and hiring. They're gonna have a spokesperson there for about 15 minutes. It's a great opportunity if you're in business, if you're thinking about starting a business, or if you just want to meet some of our business owners, just please come out. That'll be a nice evening, it always is. Again, that's at Mystic Bistro. We have the Fruitland Peninsula Historical Society. I told you, this is gonna be a mouthful tonight. Bob Lee is going to be speaking on November 16th. That's 4 p.m. at the Crescent City Women's Club, and he's gonna be speaking on Battle of Horse Landing. And then our women's club, they're gonna have their Christmas craft show. That's November 10th and through 11th, and that's from 8 to 4 on November 10th. And November 11th from 8 to 3, so that's this weekend. Correct, Sheree? I keep forgetting we're in November. Then they also have on November 17th, this is always a lot of fun, come out, it's the dinner and bingo. And it's going to, doors open at 5 o'clock and bingo starts at 5:45. Make sure you get there, have your card and your stamper in place and ready to go. They also are having their Santa's gift shop, and that's going to be November 25th. And it's from 1 to 4, and that's at the Crescent City Women's Club, and that's come by Christmas gifts for mom and dad. This is for the children, anywhere from 50 cents to $3, and it's for ages 4 to 12. They'll have refreshments and items for the children to also make. I know that several of our churches and some of our food pantries will be probably giving out some turkeys and Halloween dinner, so if you know of anybody that's in need, I know that South Putnam Church November 14th, at 9 a.m., that's on Tuesday, they'll be doing that in conjunction with Feeding America, and they'll be giving away turkey and fixings. And I believe the public is invited, so there you go. And with that, I think that's, all the announcements that we have. We got a lot going on.
Mayor,
Yes,
if I may, we do have a Toys for Tots box in my area. If anybody wants to drop off, unwrapped gifts, any agents. And also, we also have a box in there for food, for the South Putnam Food Pantry that's over here. So if anybody wants to drop off any non-perishable items, you can drop them off here as well, and we'll get them to the right people.
okay. Do you have an event?
Just a question, the Toys for Tots is just part of the overall Toys for Tots thing, it's not something special for Crescent City,
It's for South Putnam.
okay.
And they usually come in that Friday, I believe they're still scheduled to come in, the big boat, all the boats, big boats. If you're not, it's a great opportunity to see all the boats out there. Usually come into 3 Bananas for lunch, and that'll be that should be December 1st. So, show up there around lunch, and they'll have boats everywhere where they come in there and drop off, or they pick up the toys, correct? Yeah, they come in there and pick up the toys. So, between our downtown partnership and all of our civic organizations, if you see anybody that's out there volunteering, working, just thank them. Thank them. They're bringing a lot to this community, and I know that the citizens are really enjoying it. So with that, we're going to lead into public comments. These are on topics that are not already listed on the agenda. They will, business items will be heard during our business items. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. If you wish to speak during public comment, I hope you've already filled out a piece of paper. And so you can come in, please, address the commission. It looks as if, Diane Sykes, Diane, you have public comment checked twice, but I don't know which topic number. So do you want to speak at this point in time?
No, I want to speak in the.
Okay. Karen, I think that's all we have. You do have something that you need to put into record, correct? Not read into record, but put into record.
Y'all have a copy of this, I have it on your seats, BJ, I sent it to you. Just for the record, this came in this afternoon, about 4:59. And it's a letter, and just let you know that I am entering it in for a public record.
Okay. Thank you very much. And with that, I don't have, I have another card, but that's during our code enforcement portion. Is there anybody else who would like to speak that has not filled one out, that has something to say? With that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm closing out public comment. We're gonna move on to Captain Usry, you're on.
Hello, everyone. We'll start out with our normal. Whatever our report, this is gonna be again stuff that's going to be reported to FDLE, so this is the data we talked about that is obviously, like I said, reported to FDLE. So first one we're gonna go over is 43 South Summer Street. That was a closed investigation. There was a small amount of currency that was taken from the side of a local business. The victims in this, the business owner, did a decline to investigate, so it kind of ceased our investigation. The second one there is 143 North Summit Street, another theft. A bottle of alcohol was taken from a patron. He basically goes into the store and steals a bottle of alcohol, shoves it down his pants. We have since identified that individual and charges are pending. So it's not really active anymore, it's pending charges. Once we receive the video surveillance from there, it's clear who it was a local resident. Next one, there's 217 North Prospect Street, another theft. This was a power cord that was taken from a yard. Crime of opportunity, power cord was stretched across the yard, came back out a little while later, and the power cord was on, really nothing to go on that one. So that was an open and closed case. Any questions on these so far?
Any questions, commissioners? No?
So I do want to give an update on the shooting in that was at the convenience store there on North Summit Street. The United States Marshal Service was able to track down this suspect, and he was arrested on a traffic stop in Volusia County in the land area. So he is since now in custody with the Department of Juvenile Justice. The state attorney's office has confirmed he will be tried as an adult. It's very unfortunate, but he is in custody. Any questions
He
on
is
that?
juvenile.
Yes, he's 15 years old. Yes, ma'am.
I do have a question. Is the victim in that shooting, are they being helped by victim services at home?
I'm not sure. I do know he has been released from the hospital. I'm not sure his current status. I know he can talk. He's able to vocalize and able to have a conversation. I don't know what his exact condition is going to be or what the long-term, the long-term conditions are going to be.
But is that something, should he inquire with victim services that he's not in touch with them already, or do they reach out to him?
Normally, the victim services reach out to him, and he's also aware of any kind of services that would be available.
Okay.
That's through our victim advocates.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're glad that was, so he was not a local, so we just need to make sure that the
No, he was not a local.
suspect.
Right, he's opted obviously to speak to an attorney and didn't want to be interviewed, so, there's details about that investigation that I don't want to reveal on that at this time, because it is the due process and everything right now, there's still, I would say, an active investigation, but the case has not been closed yet, because they're still got to go through everything, the process and sentencing and whatnot, so that's just kind of giving you an update of how that all evolved.
Thank you, yeah, Dave.
No problem.
Captain Lester, you said he was arrested during a traffic stop, is he at some other warrant, or, it was a traffic stop and they recognized him for this?
No, so I can't tell you our secrets.
Okay.
But it was a very long process, where he was at. It was very tough for us to get to where he was. That's why we branched up with the, United States Marshal Service. They have a lot more technology than we do. Again, that's those secrets, and they were able to track him down, get a traffic stop and take him into custody without.
It was for these charges.
What's that?
It was for this charge, so.
Correct. Any other questions? And he also, Commissioner, he also had a pickup order the day after the shooting, he had a pickup order, so. Traffic crashes. 2 traffic crashes, Magnolia and Summit, 2 vehicles attempting to turn at the intersection, so basically one vehicle was making a U-turn, another vehicle was trying to turn at the same time, weren't paying attention and collided into each other. Summit in Florida, vehicle was passing Palmera's restaurant, struck the hitch of another vehicle. As you know, that parking lot there is very small, and part of the vehicle was protruding out on the road, and they hit the hitch on a vehicle that was parked in the parking lot. These are your general activities. As you can see, we had 237 total calls for service. 103 of those were traffic stops, 2 traffic crashes, suspicious persons and vehicles that's on view calls that deputies are stopping out with people when they see obviously suspicious people or cars, 21, and total reports were 16.
Is there a way possible that you could, if you describe as like a 3-month rolling average to show that in 2 months? Like how many calls for service did we have last month? Because that's, without looking back at.
Kind of a historical, it's been staying within about, I would say about 40.
It makes it a lot easier to be able to see that,
Right, and it depends on the proactivity.
Yeah.
So, it's.
because like 208 sounds like a normal amount, but like if it's a huge increase from like last month, we would know by just glancing at this. So maybe just put a bar graph at the rest of the.
I could probably do that, like a quarterly, like a 4 month, or.
Yeah, so like the last 2 months to average, or to show us in comparison, I think it'd be easy.
Yeah, you can just do your favor, get with Charles on that, so I'm reminded, and he can.
Yeah.
But that's what I do on this one, I do the 6-month comparison, that's just a crime comparison, so as you can see, we're up 200% in crime this month, which went from 1 to 3, so, it's doing very good in the city of Crescent, we're very, very proud of those numbers. Any questions on this?
Commissioners, any questions?
I have questions at the end in general.
I think
He's
you're done, you're.
That's it?
Yeah, all right, it's done.
May I?
Yes,
Thank you. Not really questions, just comments. There are quite a few loose dogs running around town. one that concerned me a great deal, and I called dispatch last week, and then animal control called me. But I think the sheriff's office would be, would be more likely to find these people. There's a couple people who walk their dog along Summit and along North Main Street, without a leash, and they let it roam within half a block or a block of where they are. It came up to me in the post office parking lot. It was loose on North Main Street where a lot of people walk their dogs. So, perhaps if your officers could be aware of that and maybe let them know that the dogs are supposed to be on a leash.
The black dog, the white
Yeah.
chest,
Not sure about the white chest.
the black dog.
It's a black dog. It looks like a terrier, something mixed. I described it to animal control. It might be, but they let it cross 17 with no leash. I mean, it's not good for the dogs. It's not good for other people walking their dogs.
And that can be just a simple reminder to my guys, because a lot of times we get complacent, there's that type things, we see people walking their dog and they don't realize that.
It's right, and it's right there in the middle of town, and there's a lot of people around. And that seems to be a nice dog, but you never know unless it's gonna be hit across the highway. As well, we seem to have quite a few people sleeping on the streets. More about that later, and that was it.
It's funny you say, I mean, me and the mayor's been in some pretty deep conversations about that stuff, some different things, and probably some objectives we need to look for looking forward, so thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Captain.
Thank you.
And with that, I'm gonna turn this over to you, Charles. Oh, I need to suspend our, current commission meeting and open up our CRA meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. This is we're bringing you tonight is the master plan for phase 1 report and the opportunity areas. We brought this to the Planning and Zoning Commission at a special meeting so they could review it and gather their comments. They're included in the presentation. And then I think I mentioned bringing this draft to you in December. We're actually going to bring it to you in January, which will allow P&Z to see it in December, as well as for me to show it around to local civic organizations, their luncheons or their monthly meetings, to give them an opportunity to see and comment on the draft when it'll come out end of the first week of December. So tonight, Benoit is here to go through, summarize briefly the data portion of it, but really want to focus on opportunity areas going forward. Are they pointing in the right direction before they begin to put pen and ink to paper and to craft the draft of the master plan?
Commissioner Lori has a question.
Are you gonna distribute the draft link to us before that?
Yes.
So when you get it, you can just send it out to everyone. So we have time to get it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I just want to be sure.
Welcome. You're getting very familiar with Crescent City.
Yes, I am. Good evening. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening, Charles. Thank you for the opportunity to be here as we go embark on the master planning process for the downtown and the US 17 highway. So tonight we have a short presentation, rather focusing on the opportunity areas. So we've been through a planning process, engaged with the stakeholders, engaged with the community at 2 major workshops. We've had surveys online, one still ongoing and still open for public opinion and comment. We've received some, we'll brief you on that. This is part of the process. We are seeing some convergence of the focus areas and ideas all being put forth by the community and by stakeholders and every other person that's been involved in the process. So tonight again is the focus is on the phase 2, on the opportunity areas and ideas that we want to see implemented in the plan. The phase 1 report is a data report that we received. We submitted it early in September or late September, early October. That document is already with you, but that's the baseline data, the mapping, the assessments, some of our observations, the summarization of all the community meetings that we've had, and that becomes the basis. So it's just a fact-finding report And we're using all of that data to proceed with the planning. So the agenda, basically three things. Is it okay if I stand here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as we can hear you.
Okay.
We just have to make sure that.
Okay, the agenda, we have project updates, basically the assessment. We'll just quickly go through some of the highlights of the assessment. Then we'll quickly switch on to the vision and the master plan. The opportunity areas that we discussed with extensively with the community and the P&Z last week. And then we'll outline the next steps for the project as we move forward to the design.
Benora, you can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Okay. I'll speak to the mic then. So the phase one report, it basically consists of 6 sections. It's online, it's on the city's website. It's the context and the understanding of where Crescent City sits in the larger context of North Florida and Jacksonville, Cala, and the whole economic context, because when you're designing, when you're master planning, we can't really plan in a vacuum. So that's that chapter. We talked about the public outreach in that report of all the feedback and discussions we've had. We've summarized that in short, and all of the meeting minutes and the notes are in the appendix. We assessed the city policies and plans. We have the city's comprehensive plan, and the land development code is currently being updated. We've been in touch with Zeb Cohen, the other consultant that's working on that. We make an assessment of that. We went through an extensive GIS mapping assessment, basically to understand the lay of the land. We used Putnam County and other public sources to map all of that, lot sizes, densities, the building patterns, so you can actually see what the infrastructure and what the land is. So when we plan forward, we can use those background information as a basis for that. We talked about area prioritizations and actions related to that. So this is slowly building into the next phase, which we will be talking more about. From the process, we identified 6 areas that were most important, which needed action as per what we heard from the community, and that's been identified. And lastly, we positioned, or we at least stated a position on where the city should be in terms of positioning and branding. We've already done an extensive branding exercise in the city, and we're actually piggybacking on that, like between the lakes, and then translating that more into the built environment. So that in a nutshell is the phase 1 report. Again, contextual understanding, if we draw a map, a circle around the larger area, it extends to St. Augustine on one side, the Ocala National Forest. St. John's River is a big influence to us, as we all know. We're in the process of the Jacksonville metro area, and the economic impact of all of that. Post-COVID, people preferring to work from home, and how we can leverage all that. The proposals of the Bass Pro Resort and how that could be possibly leveraged. We don't have any idea of what the plan is, but there's been discussions of that project. So when that comes on board, and if that comes on board, how can we position ourselves? So making sure that we understand the regional context, our history, our traditions, and all of that. Put that all into context. The current population, the previous populations, and where that all is going. Existing plans and assessments, so we looked at the 2035 comprehensive plan, development codes, nothing major in terms of that be notable, but it's straightforward planning and zoning exercise just to see if there's any anomalies. We looked at the capital improvements plan, we looked at the Putnam County's capital improvements plans, and we looked at some of the projects that could possibly have an impact on us. We know that there's a regional trails plan that's been proposed by Putnam County. That's a long-term project, and how our proposals within the city can tie into that. We looked at the CRA, the stormwater and infrastructure assessment, all at a planning level, and the current development activity within the area. We're not going page by page on the report, actually, so again, we'll just briefly summarizing phase one and quickly go into phase two. An extensive series of mapping, all of it is in the phase one, has been done. And then we went through a whole public engagement process. We'll take a little bit of time to summarize all of this, but my colleague Braxton will come and explain all that.
Good afternoon. I'm here to discuss the feedback from the stakeholders, meeting, which included 2, in-person meetings and 2 online surveys, which the board told you, before that, one is still live until Monday, November 13th. I'm also here to discuss the planning commission hearing, last week.
Can I ask you with your microphone, if you'll just, there you go.
You don't have to really speak into it.
You gotta really speak into it.
Thank you.
In the process, we were able to receive input from the residents, on all aspects of city planning, get ideas and recommendations on parking in the downtown area, infrastructure development, housing options, and commercial and retail growth that would, provide convenience to the residents. Residents would like to see more investments in the city, local to the city festivities, which I think, like, that's really cool, from what you were telling me.
Got a lot going on.
Yes, a lot going on. And preserving the local historical charm and the activation of the lakefront. First, we had an initial online survey. Notification of the online survey was done through the city's social media platforms and sent, in the mail to everyone who had a utility bill in the Crescent City. There were 10 questions on the survey. Answers were a combination of free response and some pre-made answers. Questions included: how long have you been a resident? What attracted you to the area? I'm sorry. And where do you shop and things of that nature? We received 62 responses on the first online survey. A lot of the feedback pointed to preserving the small town charm of Crescent City and how the downtown needs to be improved and developed. Responses touched on how the lack of resources and retail opportunities force residents to travel outside of the city and the need for a community center. Then we had our first in-person meeting on September 12th. This meeting was focused on mostly visual preference. We had about 22 attendees at this in-person meeting. The main preferences were expressed with downtown revitalization, lakefront activation, a variety of housing options, and preservation of the historic character of the city. The second public meeting was held on November 1st. This meeting focused on more about the opportunity areas. The attendance was about half of the first meeting. Some feedback we received was the reuse of the middle school, redevelopment of the waterfront to attract and retain residents, relocation of City Hall to Summit Avenue, preserving the green spaces throughout the city, and providing adequate and functional parking spaces to accommodate businesses downtown. On November 2nd, there was a planning commission meeting, and we received comments on opportunity areas that need to define and clarify housing, city growth, and public participation. Areas of opportunity included housing and parking locations for the future, widening of sidewalks that reduce the speed of the downtown area, preserving the historic character of the city, healthcare and hotels along the commercial, healthcare and hotels along with other commercial amenities for the downtown area. The main concerns of the board included the definition of affordable housing, as in what type of housing will it be? Clarifying if the city will be a destination city or continue to be a small residential community. They would like to address the existing blight and consider an industrial park in the southern portion of the city. They would like to explore multiple growth avenues in addition to the impact of the vast development that's coming. The final note from the planning commission is the lack of public participation. Public participation is a crucial part of this process, and every effort within the region needs to be explored for public engagement. Finally, there's an active online survey, which again is live until Monday, November 13th. On the screen, you can find the QR code, to take the survey. Some initial feedback that we received from, this survey is, again, preserving the historic buildings and structures, the need for destination businesses like breweries and restaurants within the downtown area. Docks, marinas, waterfront parks are favored by the residents. Mixed-use apartments and condos are important to attract new families. And there's mixed opinions about relocating City Hall and mixed opinions on housing along Lake Stella waterfront. Residents believe that there should be a focus on policing and crime prevention also. That's what we have so far.
How many responses have you gotten yet for the second survey?
30.
Right.
Yeah. So it's, yeah, thank you, Bryson. Okay, so, yeah, that's the summary of the phase one. And, so moving on to phase two, to summarize everything, we're trying to be brief. The first point was the lack of amenities such as shopping and grocery. So what can be done within downtown and some of the newer areas to attract that? That was number one. Poorly designed and connected sidewalks and inadequate space for events. That was another summary. Unattractive downtown core area and housing choices. So increase the range of housing that's available, bring it up to on par with the market. Underdeveloped lakefront and park system. So the opportunities on both Crescent Lake and Lake Stella, how can that be improved, especially when you have those events, your Christmas fireworks and everything. It's the single largest public space that you have. Lack of identity despite its unique location and history. The fear that the 17 corridor may turn into anywhere in America with no identity. So how can we preserve that? How can we have this Central Avenue, the unique asset, and the Main Street that's going on there, but continue to preserve that with the historic districts and historic architecture around it, and then lack of recreational spaces for spaces and events for younger populations and groups. So it's just the theme that comes out of all the surveys. There is a lot of voices that ask for, especially at the PNZ, we heard clearly about the city's always been a city for residents and children and people growing up, and that's what their memory is. And so how can we get back to a more diverse population with different incomes and different levels of ages, so that you have young families, older folks and children all living here. And that actually is a more dynamic and economic environment. So we identified 6 opportunity areas. So the first opportunity area is the obvious one around Central Avenue, which is the core downtown area, which, as you all know, is designated as a Florida Main Street. And the opportunities here really are so the vacant sites along Crescent Avenue, the opportunity to have additional housing on top of the retail. There's some properties up for sale as well right now. The opportunity to have an interim use in time, or at least as a holding when the new development or when a more significant development comes on board. The second opportunity area is really the north-south corridor on Summit Avenue. The vision here, or at least the theme here, was for a mixed commercial corridor. Yes?
Summit Street.
Okay, Summit Street.
Thank you.
To have a mixed commercial corridor which has more urban features and landscape that is more, contextual or respectful of what Crescent City was. We've seen some old pictures of the huge canopy trees and kind of going back to that. The third opportunity area is the middle school site. As we know, this is the big elephant in the room. What is to be done with that? There is going to be a strong sentiment to preserve some of the usable buildings, such as the recreation center, the gym, the cafeteria, and the entrance for some kind of civic use. That came out very clearly. But then there's also, the front end on Central Avenue, the site on Central Avenue, and on the southern side, the large vacant areas. Clearly, there was a preference for some more residential, a mixed housing product like low-rise apartments or condominiums that has a more waterfront and active lifestyle that the city can use as a means to add more people, get a more higher quality of residential development and residential choices. Number 4 is this area along the Lake Stella waterfront. It's really the key themes that came out was to focus on your unique asset, which is really the waterfront, and the fact that there's quite a number of vacant or underutilized properties along the lake, and with the amenity of the bike track and the beach and the sunset views and the bird watching opportunities, how can we leverage that unique area to reach its full potential of having some more housing and making it a more desirable location very close to downtown. Number 5 is this area, which is right by the Save-A-Lot and the Winn-Dixie. The focus here was more about having an uptown district center, which is more of a modern kind of shopping district with some affordable or really a mixed product housing. It could include some senior living. This is in proximity to the Fletcher Park. So with all that here, the opportunity to really have a new and upcoming destination within the city as a counterpart to the downtown, like a downtown and an uptown, where that would be a good focal point to attract new residents, the working class population. There was discussion about providing housing for educators and those that are in the service industry. So a different kind of housing product that could even, which is in close proximity to the new schools, so it could become a nice focal point for development that could improve the overall economic context of the city. The last opportunity area was number 6 on the south side, where you've recently approved the new 100-unit RV park. Some of the vacant land over there could be more focused on a commercial node or a convenience center with a gas station and some other neighborhood-focused amenities and commercial activity. And granted that all the land around it is zoned for medium density residential, the opportunity for that commercial node to be viable is great. And with all the new units that have been proposed as well. So that in a nutshell is the 6 opportunity areas that we've come up with through the planning process and kind of vetted in both the public meetings and in the online surveys and with the P&Z. And we're here actually to discuss that with you as well. We'll go one by one into each one so we can discuss that in further. In addition to all of that, we talked about some citywide policies and overall strategies that can kind of tie up everything together. There was clearly a preference for a bike ped and a golf cart, a multimodal kind of accessible, multimodal mobility kind of framework for the city. And through shadows that we've already started implementing, through possibly widening the sidewalk on Summit Street. Then new public infrastructure, there was discussion about possibly the new gas station on the lake, on Crescent Lake, so that could attract more visitors to come and come into the town or come into the area. A public marina, pier and lookout on both sides, on both ends of the lake, some public infrastructure improvements. There was some discussion about annexation and extension of the city to include some more land areas that you could eventually capitalize on and fund some of the investments into the downtown core. So a number of other initiatives or citywide policies and actions are also listed in this framework. We move on to, before we start any kind of planning process, we kind of have to establish the overall vision and some principles that kind of drive the whole notion of what we want to do in these opportunity areas. So the master plan vision is really, building on the Life Between the Lakes tagline. We've heard these sentences and these phrases come out directly from the community, so we've kind of merged them all together and made it into more of a planning kind of statement. So the master plan vision is a thriving old North Florida small town connected by lakes and trails, featuring diverse residential neighborhoods and historic districts, quality shopping, dining, and healthcare experiences, walkable downtown and delightful events and activities, good public facilities including schools and waterfront parks, sound infrastructure and connectivity to destinations within and outside the town. So it kind of tackles, the residential, the commercial, the public infrastructure, and the whole overall experience of the town. And the driving force is, meeting city residents' needs and economic resilience. So it's trying to create a balance that will actually satisfy what the residents and what the community wants, but yet have those key strategies in place for the economic resilience and vibrance of the city. I'm not going to read through all of this, but we've established some real solid principles based on the vision. The first one is an enhanced urban experience. We heard that clearly from the community about how this was a vibrant place and it was with active shops and you had your neighborhood store and homecoming was a big thing. It was all about the events with the lakes. So the enhanced urban experience is one aspect that people would want to have again. Economic prosperity, obviously that comes a lot with being clever about redevelopment, but yet matching what the aspirations are. We don't want to be a big Claremont or any other big town that we see around. We don't want to be a DeLand. We just want to keep the old town charm, but yet be strategic about those actions to make sure that it's economically prosperous. Context-sensitive design. We all know about the historic buildings, what we have, the good bones of the main street and buildings up to the street. So respect that context, respect the waterfront, respect all those amenities. Robust mobility networks. Increasingly, you're seeing across the state how cars and bikes are sharing the lanes. Golf carts are a big thing. We've permitted golf carts, so make all of that possible. So you kind of mitigate your parking situation in a way. Tactical urbanism. I don't like that word because we have a lot of complaints about it. But really, we're going to change that. It really is about having those quick wins and solutions that interim use, events, lighting on the streets that can actually create some kind of a buzz so that you can get that visitation and that destination look. Lastly, resilient development, kind of in line with everything that we said. It's about making sure that what we're proposing stands the test of time. You don't want to have a timeshare, for example, that would fail, and then you're stuck with a building that you don't want to have. So just being smart about that, going with the fundamentals of trying to attract the right tenants and the right kind of housing that suits your city. So, purpose of tonight. Sorry it took so long, but the first opportunity area is the Central Avenue, which is all of this corridor right in front of us. The culmination of all what we've heard so far, it comes down to this. The first design feature, let's say, before. So we need this input from you all and from the community, because from now over the next month, we want to actually start drawing up some things and sketching out exactly what we mean by all of this, and doing some nice illustrations so you can actually visualize it, which would in turn get you to seek those grants and seek investors to start, making it an attractive proposition. So new infill, mixed use, commercial and residential.
Can I stop you for just a moment? Commissioner, have you got any other question?
I do. I brought some questions about the basic data and underlying assumptions and kind of how we got to this point. There are some things that I didn't, quite see. Is there okay if I ask those?
Do you want us to talk about the data first and then we can go forward, or do you want to finish this and then take those questions? Or
However you want to choose, maybe we'll finish this.
If we'll finish that and then we can go back to it.
Well, the basic data and, I think impacts, I don't have a lot of questions, but they impact what you would be drawing and developing.
Yeah.
So if I could just share that quickly. One question I've had is,
Yes, we're gonna go ahead and ask questions first.
okay, just because this is the foundational part and we never got to ask questions about the foundational part. Okay, so you've got some assumptions, or you took comment from the public about what they thought Crescent City was lacking. And our perceptions are important, but for example, lack of recreational opportunities. That's a very broad statement. Is there any drilling down into what we have and what people are saying that we lack? More specific, like we have outdoor recreation, we don't have a lot of indoor opportunities. I mean, is that just the broad statement that we're gonna go on, that we lack recreational opportunities?
Yeah, so in terms of that particular aspect, for a robust community, typically the recreational program does have some kind of organized sports. It does have other opportunities related to maximizing or optimizing your lakefront areas. So that's where those comments are coming from, in terms of just not being on par with what other communities would have, in terms of meeting all kinds of children's needs and.
But what I'm saying is, we don't have any specifics on that yet, correct?
We don't. And
Okay,
And so that's why I want him to go ahead and finish his presentation, and then we'll go back, Commissioner DeVito, I'm sorry, with your questions. Is that okay? I think that would be, I think then we can, maybe it can tie into the whole process.
because
So now that's what we're gonna do.
okay, so we're gonna give feedback on each opportunity area without,
Yes.
how we got here, okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner. So really, the data is the data, and, we can,
Well, some things are kind of missing. That's
yes,
why I
we can fill those in, we receive some comments, and if there is data available on those particular pieces, we can surely add that in, we'll look again, and we'll try our best to kind of fill those gaps and address those. But we have received some comments, and we will be addressing that. So the first opportunity area really is Central Avenue again. It's talking about new infill mixed use, commercial and residential. So meaning where along Main Street especially, on some of the vacant sites, any new proposals should include commercial on the ground floor and residential on the upper floor. So that is the presumption. So that is the vision, or that is really the end game on what needs to happen. Now, on some of the existing buildings, it may be a little more challenging. It may be a little more constrained with the nature of that building and everything that's required to accommodate that. We know that there's some buildings that do have that facility, which is encouraged. The vacant sites, especially down by the school and on those areas, we think some of those opportunities will take time to come on board. We want to find the right development and wait for that. But in the interim, there could be uses such as temporary event space, flex spaces even that can be quickly put on those sites and have that solicitation with the developer or somebody interested in that to make that available in the interim. But the long-term scenario really is about commercial on the ground floor and residential on the top. So on the existing structures, rehabilitated commercial buildings with residential above, parking facilities to support downtown events. So, as we've seen the evolution of a lot of small towns and municipalities, we know that once these investments and once these activities come on board, parking is going to be a challenge. So it is key to identify areas within the downtown area in close proximity to these major activities that can be used for parking. We're actually even suggesting a parking garage, not a tall one, but maybe a 2-level, which is lower than a 2-story building, that can actually be viable to support some of the residential activities, some of the commercial activities. And then when we get to 3, we'll explain how some of the middle school repurposing of those historic buildings could actually require some more parking with all the planned performing arts center, or the history center, whatever bigger regional kind of activities that you want there. So we need to find a suitable parking area, and we suggest that it could be multiple areas as well, one on the east side and one on the west side. But the strategy is for the city at least, if there's some properties that come on board, to acquire them and lock them in for that use. So we don't have in future, 20 years from now, a situation where our downtown, which was thriving, is going down because of the lack of parking. The street is going to be used for bikes, cars, walking, as well as golf carts. So it's just connected. It's not just that link between here and there. We need to get it all the way up there to the north. We've heard some comments about connecting it up to the District 5, the 5th opportunity area, and then connecting back into those neighborhoods, and then perhaps even through the historic districts. If you look at the Lake County's, Putnam County's trails plan, it talks about an extensive network which even goes further south. So having all that connect and weave in through downtown. Plazas and parklets and streetscape improvements we talked about, and then lastly, piers and other public spaces in those areas along the Crescent Lake waterfront and the Lake Stella waterfront. We have a gazebo there. We have a little walkout pier there, but more enhanced experience on that. It was kind of recommended in the UF University of Florida study, but how can we make that more viable? We think that with all these redevelopment activities, it will be a viable proposition. So I'll pause for any comments, feedback on opportunity area 1.
Well, then wait a second, let me go back then, because Commissioner DeVito, I thought you were gonna go through the entire, you
Okay, I
wanted to
can
go
go
through
through
everything, and then
We can do
we could circle back and start with, how did you arrive at all of this?
Okay.
Do this data, is that correct, Commissioner DeVito, is how did he arrive at this data how did he arrive at this based on the data that's before us?
Okay, well, at this point, I think it's a more practical thing to respond to each area that he's giving us. Somehow, this seems a little bit different from the format of planning and zoning. Somehow they got to more general, they asked the general questions first. I heard a lot of general questions. So I don't know when we're gonna get to general questions unless we're not allowed.
Absolutely.
But I think it's an easier bite to go ahead and ask our questions about each designated opportunity area, and then somewhere in there, I'll get to my question.
Well, then we're gonna backtrack, if it's okay, let's get this out of the way with the data, so that we can move on to this. So let's go back to the data, if that doesn't mess you up. And Commissioner DeVito, go ahead with your questions on data.
Okay, so, I read somewhere in the data, you made a recommendation that, we're a little less than 2,000 population now, and you made a recommendation that we shoot for 8,000 population after 20 years.
Right.
And so that would be growth in residents of 300 people a year.
Right.
And how did we get to that point?
So that it's not, so the US Census Bureau has a projected population of 1.6 to 2.1. But what we've been seeing increasingly in most of our communities that we work with is the way migration is happening to Florida and the way developments are being permitted, none of these numbers hold true. So what we typically do is make an assumption on the number of development activities that we think could happen. And that could be in discussion with the Regional Planning Council, with the city's planning department, and it's our best professional estimate of what it can happen.
That's fine, I understand that part, and that leads me to my next question, builds on what you said about it's from census data based on migration to Florida permits. One thing that I didn't see in the general description of the area, you talk about we're in the Jacksonville metro area, and then you had a locator map that showed, our proximity to some of the larger areas like St. Augustine. One thing I didn't see anywhere in the description of where we are is that, you mentioned specific institutions, but there wasn't really the description that I see that we have been, which is for what's called the Fruitland Peninsula, south of the Dunn's Creek Bridge, although maybe it's more a little south of San Mateo, because some people go to East Palatka. We have been traditionally the government service area and the shopping area for the whole rural area south of the Dunn's Creek Bridge. We have more commercial area now than we have had in the past. That's changing very rapidly. We certainly have more commercial area at Miller Park, and the one thing we have going for us in the area is that we have water and sewer in our commercial area. And as well, our tax collector made a presentation last year and pointed out that we are actually a government service area for Seville and Pearson, that government center right there served, and they're actually part of the Fruitland Peninsula geographic area.
So how do you want him to add? Are you asking him to add this data to
No.
this? Are you asking him to include it? I think this was a generalized statement about as far as where we're located and not necessarily that as detailed. So are you asking him to make this more detailed?
Well, I think it's important when you consider what we're going to develop here, what our purposes are.
So I guess what I'm getting at, Commissioner DeVito, without, I'm not trying to cut you off, it's just, you had questions about the data. These sound to me like this is more your takeaway from it. What's the question to him? Did you want him to include that?
Yes, I'm saying, I think this is something that should be included, and I have a couple of other things. You mentioned Bass Pro Shop as the elephant in the room.
No, not the middle school.
The middle school, well, Bass Pro Shop is something, it's
Yes,
mentioned
it
as something,
It's
it
just
will
one.
have an impact. Sorry, didn't mean to get my descriptors mixed up. But you mentioned Bass Pro Shop, and one of my concerns for Crescent City about Bass Pro Shop is that we not become the low-income housing area for the more high-end Bass Pro Shop area. That if you look around, well, that's another thing about the data. If you look at our socioeconomic data, not only did we lose population over the last, 2 or 3 decades, but the people coming in are significantly lower in income, and I think we have a poverty figure that you may have mentioned. I've spent almost my whole life helping low-income people get housing, both at the state and local level, but every community needs a balance. So our balance has been consistently lost of middle and higher income people. And we need workforce housing, but, we also need to make sure that if we want shops and retail, that we're attracting the higher SES, and then,
So what's your question on this one?
whether should that be included in the data, which is the trend.
Right, so the Bass Pro Shop, so the way we tackle this is, in order for us not to just receive, firstly, it's too far away for that kind of thing to happen. That's why we're proposing those two opportunity areas that would have a higher infrastructure, a higher level of housing offerings and choices that would attract, a decent middle income group that would consider this area attractive for many reasons, because it's the waterfront, you got the historic downtown, you got your schools, and you got all this infrastructure in place. But one of the main reasons we've heard from the process and from our observations is because of the lack of housing choices, the prices are lower and the housing stock is lower. So you are attracting lower income people as a result of that. Because the housing stock is not good enough, so it's not being rented or even sold at market rates, and that's what's triggering this. So an upgrade, as we are recommending in opportunity areas 5 and within the downtown areas, would really actually create a market-driven process that would help us get to that place.
Okay. And my takeaway, yes, ma'am.
I looked through here, we only had 62 people taking these surveys. And so you're basing all of your information on 62 people. I hope you're not, but what the 62 people are kind of asking for you to do within this community, and I'm just.
So there's three, so the way we do planning, there's three or four information banks that we use to make these recommendations. So these opportunity areas came purely from us. But it's a culmination of three things. One is the public process, that we hear these real concerns. We want to attack those real challenges and find solutions to that. So one is that. The second is the data and the actual information that we've seen through those maps and through observations on the site. And the third is actually some of the soft things that we bring from our experience with other towns and municipalities. So we kind of mix all of that and then make these proposals. So I can tell you clearly that, the Uptown District and some of the recommendations on parks and trails and integration, and then focusing on the downtown to create a more walkable space is reflective of our experience from other communities that we've seen that has turned around as a result of those actions.
Yes, sir. I'll get back to you, Commissioner Vito.
I can remember back about 15 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago. I was trying to think of what the population was. I think the population now is about 1600, somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
And we had more stores, more things than we got now. I don't know, all of a sudden, like all that disappeared. Our kids got to go out of town, a lot of people do go out of town to get jobs once they graduate, from wherever, they graduate from. That's one of my problems. I want to know, what can we do to try to give that a lip off?
Yes.
Cause and I heard in talking, you just don't want to put something here that's not gonna be productive. Just to be putting something here.
Yes.
Yes, whatever we put, and I'm pretty sure whoever comes in and try to open a business here, they wanna be productive. They're gonna do a study or outlay of it, So I just don't know. One of the things I think would help, and I heard you mention this, we don't have no place for people to eat at. A Sunday dinner, a decent Sunday dinner. You gotta go all the way to Black, a D-Land, things like that. But right now that the housing is kind of coming up. So we got, they out of the county, but they be not, the candidate still will support Crescent City. Stone is dead, and we had clothing store, we had a theater, we had this, we had that, and all that just disappeared.
When the Johns left.
Yeah.
I think when the Johns left, all that disappeared, so.
So, you know, and that's why I'm hoping this Main Street jump on. But I heard you mention, we got a major piece of property there, that's school.
Yeah.
And,
Why is it right?
yeah, we need to do a whole lot of focus on whatever we got to do. Try to keep that in our cause. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to Commissioner DeVito, and I kind of want to move this, so if you could be as concise as you possibly can, that would be thankful.
I don't know, I would just say this, I've been through a planning process before, and I've never been through a planning process where people were not encouraged to ask questions and
I'm
understand.
not discouraging you, I said, just that's.
I feel very discouraged, and nobody did that at the planning and zoning meeting. So I had a
They
question.
didn't mean to, it's just, he wanted, I apologize that I made you feel that way, I did not mean to. It's just, we've got a lot to cover, and I thought we would go through the whole process. Now I'm giving you the opportunity, please ask your questions.
Okay, so I'm not really sure what the product is that we're going to land with, like, you've talked a lot about parklets and parking spaces, spaces for parking. What do we wind up with? Just that we should have these things? And then we have to develop an action plan after that? Or are you going to give us eventually, when we come to some agreements, definite recommendations? Like, I'm not really sure, what parts of downtown do you not consider walkable? The US 17 part?
Yes, so the US 17 part, for sure, just this street up here, you have a sidewalk, but you can enhance it. You can create a little more, a safe bike and pedestrian space along the street.
Along US 17?
Yes, so,
Well, you know that the trail that we have is supposed to be the alternative to US 17.
right, but your focus is your downtown, so you want to make that, we know that walkable downtowns have the most economic activity and the economic return on investment.
Right.
So based on that notion, whatever we can do to have that discussion with with the FDOT to create a more walkable space, if we can reconfigure the street configuration in the front here, to create that, it would change the landscape.
Right, just let me say, I'm all for reconfiguring the street because I've been in Crescent City since we didn't have the medians and we had the parking on 17, and it feels very, very unsafe right downtown to be walking there. That part's dangerous. I certainly would not recommend trying to put bicycles anywhere on US 17. The trail goes right through downtown, and it's only 1 block from 17, so to me, I ride my bike, I wouldn't wanna ride a bike there. So just, do you, like, that part about Central Park, is that something that you're proposing for the downtown area?
Which Central Park?
It says down at the bottom, and on the left, Central Park, the 4 pictures in the.
Oh,
On the
yeah, so one of the ideas was to use some of the areas on the hotel site, especially under the trees, if we can have an additional plaza. There was also a discussion about possibly relocating the city hall. If that was to happen, then whatever commercial development that comes here could integrate a little urban plaza. It's not a park, but it's more like a paved area where there's spillover space for dining and some other activities, because you have a lot of events going on in downtown, your streets fill up, and it would be nice to have some kind of a little relief along the street It just creates that extra, so that's the idea.
Okay, and then one thing that really confused me that I read somewhere is that there was a recommendation, but I don't know, I couldn't tell. Was this from one of your survey responses, or is this a proposal from you folks? It said, Bear Island is a nature destination and there should be boat tours.
That's one of the discussions we've had with the stakeholders.
So are we, just, the reason I'm asking is because, as I understand it, it's privately owned.
Correct.
And no one is allowed to go there, so would this be a place that we would need to put on the acquisition list or something like that?
That would be an action for discussion by the authorities, by the city manager, or at least start that discussion. Even the discussion about having another marine gas station along the lake.
On Bear Island?
No, you didn't say that
Along the
along
lake.
the lake.
So that would be another discussion point. We don't know exactly what that is. So we think as well, if that's a facility that can be added, it could attract more people coming down this way. So there's some recommendations. So these opportunity areas are more tangible, and then there's some other policy directions, some other actions that you could have discussions with the concerned authorities. For example, having this as part of the bike, the coast-to-coast bike kind of network system.
What's your plans for that? That's already planned.
Right. So having that discussion with whoever's posting that on the social media platform, that this becomes part of that. So there's a lot of event coordination, the CRA is responsible for some of it, but there's some guidance actions that can actually help move the same redevelopment ideas forward that can kind of work in tandem.
We have to remember too, this is not something, and somebody even said this to me, it's gonna take 20 years for all this to happen. I go, that's what it's supposed to do. This is something that we're looking at, that I know Ocala did the same thing. In talking to that mayor back in '03, they just completely, they were much like us. Nobody went to their downtown, nobody wanted to go to their downtown. They did the exact same thing, and he said now 20 years later, look at downtown Ocala, and they stuck to that plan. So it's a vision that they set, maybe not today, but tomorrow, this could happen.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I'm hoping to get, that's what I'm hoping to get out of this.
And you're absolutely right, because these kinds of processes, what it does is actually gets alignment from everybody. We may not agree on everything, because everybody has their own opinion, whether a bike lane should be here or there, or it could be in both places. But the point is, if we can all align on what we agree with, at least we have one cohesive voice. And that's where these communities that we know succeed, like Ocala and some other, small areas. I'm seeing down Wildwood go the same way. It's all aligned with the leadership and the staff and the community. With whatever we have, at least we agree on certain things. Like between the lakes, it's not a destination fully. It's more focused on residential for across all ages. There's some fundamentals that we agree with. However, that you could go another way. We could be, the new Disney. I'm just, for argument's sake, I'm just saying, you could have another vision. But at least we're coming, I feel, through this planning process so far. Despite all the details that we're picking on, I think we're seeing a coalescence of where we want to go. As I said, fundamental, everybody's kind of agreeing that we need better housing to attract families, a demographic that can make the whole city economically vibrant, leverage the middle school side, have more waterfront recreation. These are all commonalities that we agree on, make a more walkable experience. So this process will help you get there at least, and you've navigated that space. At least we know from the residents, from the decision makers, from staff, and everybody that we have now a roadmap to go work towards. And then things may change. This plan may change. The parking structure we propose here may not be here. It may be here. But we recommend it, and then decision makers and staff can always go back to that and say, hey, this was what we set out to do, and let's start chasing EPA for grants or for whatever, because we have a project in place, we have some drawings in place, we have a target, and that's what it does. It gets you all aligned.
Commissioner Ward.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think one of the biggest things is there's a lot of confusion about what we're actually doing here. I know I was confused at the very beginning what the point of this was and what the steps were to it, and they kept changing too. I mean, things getting pushed back. And I know that talking to some people, residents, they're like, what master plan, what are you talking about? And I just don't, what the final product is basically some recommendations. You're taking your information that you've gotten and your experience, all the stuff that you've done, gathered about our city, and then you're gonna tell us maybe what we should be doing. But, we've done this before though. I mean, the UF, one that you were talking about, from 2018, that was done, and we had the mental disability study. I just don't know what is it that's different about this now, except for we paid a lot more for
So, I don't know, I cannot say about that, but I can surely say this is different.
Well, first of all, this was predicated on the update to our redevelopment plan, which statutorily
it.
requires
The CRA plan,
CRA plan
Okay.
update.
so they're giving us the CRA plan as well.
Yes,
That's-
it's called Vision Master Plan and CRA update.
Okay.
So that's a requirement that we need to do.
Right.
It's time, 2018 plan, needs to be updated. So, and part of that is we don't have, if you look at the redevelopment plan, the north and south CRA districts have like three goals, generally pave roads, broadband, assist people with housing. So there's no plan, there's no vision for the corridor, even for the downtown. Some of the things in the 2018 plan, we're reconsidering, the moon-shaped dock on the lake, things like that. People,
I'm gonna ask you.
recreation equipment on Lake Stella and so forth. So it's time to look at all that again, and it's an opportunity to create, as he said, to align ourselves towards a vision. So it won't just be a list of recommendations. We'll take that as the example you illustrated. We'll all agree, we need your agreement at the end of the day. Yeah, we want to build a little parking structure over here. And so we began to look for grant opportunities to fund that. And then so that's sort of our marching orders. Well, we want to, if the plan is to do a whole new streetscape in a particular design, we'll begin to move in that direction. It's not something that'll come back and bring up again for approval, the idea. What I hope you do is ask all your questions tonight in the months to come, so when you adopt it, we're adopting it as a unified vision, and it kind of gives us a direction. So when we look at our annual work plan, grants we pursue, everything will move us towards this vision. And then in 5 to 7 years, we'll take another look at it. We still like the direction we're going. Hey, this thing happened in the region that we didn't anticipate. We got a big distribution center, a big employer, something changed. So we need to rethink, and we may decide, yeah, we really like the direction we're going. Turns out we built something over here instead of over here. We'll tweak the maps. And so we update it and we move on again. But this will provide us some guidance, and particularly in our 17 corridor, we really didn't have that. In the downtown, we had a plan. It's time to look at it again. And you may look at that 2018, like, well, I like what we said in that plan. I want to make sure we keep that in the plan, whatever it was about that plan, like the connection of sidewalks or whatever. So that's the purpose of this, and it is important, and it's worth the time and effort.
So it's providing the city with a guidebook.
It is.
It's basically, you're providing a roadmap, as we go forward. Yes, ma'am.
Speaking, building on what Commissioner Roy asked about, so I have two issues. This is supposed to include updating our CRA plans plural, right?
The redevelopment plan is for all 3 districts.
Right, okay, so number one, I've noticed that, community policing is not in our CRA plan anywhere. And if it's not in the plan, you can't do it, right?
Correct, we can't spend money on it.
Right, and I haven't checked, as of last year, the statute still allowed money to be spent on community policing. I don't know if it still allows it,
Policing innovations,
but, okay,
so not ongoing policing, but like buying, one of those, buy electric scooters for an officer to scoot around town, or one of those segways. One community buys
The
segways.
yeah.
They can't buy more segways over the years, but the initial innovation is then next year it's not innovation anymore, it's just buying another Segway. So policing innovation.
Probably even the telephones, with the emergency phone, how they'll have
The
those.
blue light.
Blue light,
Yeah.
blue lights, yeah.
Okay, well, the point of my raising that is that typically when we have a crime spree in town, it's centered around our commercial area. So I'm hoping that when we update the CRA plans, that whatever is allowed with policing, that we will include that in the plan so that if needed, we could take advantage of that opportunity. Hopefully the TIF will be going up, and then, the mayor discussed the CRA plans a little bit. My question for coming to this meeting is, do we ever look at our existing CRA plans before we do all this updating and actually go through it and figure out what we like and what we don't like, or what didn't work and why didn't it work? We never really look at our CRA plan. How does that work to update it?
Well, we've gone through it a couple of times, the plan of what's in it and what we've done to date to achieve that. And
But I mean, it
I'd
has,
like to go through the plan as well as part of his research.
yeah, but are we ever gonna evaluate the effectiveness of what we chose initially? I guess that's what I'm asking.
So are you wanting to do something with that? That's what
Well, I'm asking, is that customary to evaluate the efficacy of what was in your plan before?
Not in my experience. We created a new plan, and elements that you like or that the public like get pulled forward into the new plan.
Well, I guess, Mayor, to answer your question, I think it would be helpful to look and see, at least elicit from businesses, those that remain, and from the residents, and from our new city manager, what elements of this plan helped us and what would kind of, just irrelevant verbiage. Because we've never really done that.
But we're not locked into this plan yet.
We don't have a
Well,
plan.
I think-
We don't have a
I-
plan. We're still gathering data. We still have data out there that we're gathering for the
And I also
question.
want to say, I hope that we don't have a crime spree. I've never seen one here yet in Crescent City. So I think we should put a little more hope that we don't, rather than think that we might. But anyway, I think that's where we're going, is we're not there yet. We haven't quite finished this process. And we're not gonna finish the process tonight if we don't kind of move along and see where you're at. I think this is a point of, this is where you're at this moment. And I think we kind of need to move along and not try to decide that this is gonna happen tonight, that we're gonna plan this tonight and close the issue. So I think we spent a lot of time right now, and I'm sorry, Mayor, let him move forward.
Commissioner Vito, are you good at this point to let him move forward? Okay, thank you.
And I wasn't trying to be rude, I was just wanting some more information, because I think it's kind of vague for a lot of people about what the whole goal is here.
And I want to say this, that, it does cost a lot of money. And what we have found is that everything, and I know for the general public, that's a big pill to swallow, but everything we do, every plan we do, it's been shocking to me how much it costs. And so I think that going through this process and getting that feedback to me is so important from the citizens, because we're not gonna probably be here 20 years from now. Well, we can't be here 20 years from now.
No, we can.
We'll be here, but we won't be sitting here. But then we'll be turned out, we'll all be turned out by then. And so as for, it's trying to make sure that the people, those leaders that come after us, that, this is something that they can buy into too, and that the community buys into, because this is really what the community is looking to us for, correct?
Right,
Yeah.
well, yeah, well said, and Commissioner DJ, I think it's good that you raised that question, because it's important to manage the expectations as well. Really, this is, as we said, it's a roadmap, it's based on information that we know at this point in time. We don't control the future, so So what we're proposing at this point in time is reflective of what the residents want and what we think in a professional way is the best way forward, considering all our constraints and parameters. But
Okay,
that being said,
Opportunity Zoo, let's go to
Right.
opportunity area 2.
so that being said, all of this is still open and available online. From 30 responses we've received, there hasn't been much disconnect as Braxton pointed out. Overall, I think, as I said, when I came in, every time we hear these discussions at these public meetings, and it seems a lot more adversarial than the commonalities that show up in these surveys and the results. I mean, there's those fringe and tangential comments which are there, and some are relevant, some are not. But overall, I think we're in a good place, at least on the direction. On this one, on Summit Street, Highway 17, again, it's about defining downtown. We don't have a defined downtown in the north-south direction. So what we're suggesting is 3 blocks north of Central and 2 blocks south of Central is your core 10-block downtown area where you create an enhanced urban experience to kind of match what's on Central Avenue. You create that node of hey, I've arrived, because that's where most people come to your town from, and that's what it's been historically. And I've seen some nice pictures, some old pictures from the community as well. So how can we do that? Reconfiguring streets. Now, we've had a lot of discussions on this, and we are positive that if that's the direction you want to go, we can have that discussion with DOT to kind of reconfigure that, because since 2018, there's been a lot of rethinking on DOT's part. Especially, they have something called the context classification, and by law, they are obliged to design roads, whatever road it is, even if it's a highway, a 6-lane highway, to respect its context. So we can have a thorough discussion with DOT on how we can make this a little more amenable to our downtown and get it back to its glory days. If you're aligned with that. So the option really is to reconfigure it. Our traffic engineers look at the numbers. In all reality, you can actually get it down to a 3-lane road with a median and 2 lanes going either way. You don't have the traffic at any time point over the next 20 years. That's the projection you get. But that's a choice you can make. It could improve the quality of the downtown, and it could improve. It could make it more safer, because if you just watch over the next 30 seconds, the speed which these cars are passing by. So all that. So that's consensus across the board. The focus really is on commercial activity and how that can be more respective of the street. There's a lot of techniques that we can do on that. Urban features, landscape buffers, little structures that can actually fill those voids instead of having a large parking area and the building place in the back. There's also a discussion about relocating City Hall from here to the middle, closer to the government center near Eucalyptus, and that becomes a little more centrally located. What it does is 2 things. One is it actually, it makes it all one, let's say a government plaza, if you will, with the fire station and everything. It can be well designed. Visitors can have a one-stop shop experience in the government center. It's more centrally located to the north, where most of your residents will eventually happen to be because of the vacancy of the land. It's closer to the major Vernon Avenue. It frees up downtown as well for the more commercial and the more activity-oriented spaces. So that's a consideration as well. Those are the quick highlights for the middle portion. Then we talk about gateway features, at the entry points here, and possibly another at the entry point on the south side. So some kind of arrival, but then once you get down to the 10 blocks, it becomes a whole other experience. And anybody driving through will know that you've arrived at Crescent. Right now, they don't.
Commissioners, do we have any questions on this?
I just had some feedback as far as reconfiguring the highway. It would be great to have some actual crossings, to cross, crosswalks that were safe. We have 2, I think, one down by the ones coming with traffic light. Even if they're the ones that, you push a button and the light turns red, that would be great. At least, a few other places, because it's, rushing the wind trying to cross the street.
And one of the main things we heard is slowing the speed, like really having, 30 or below, especially, and the effective, additional travel time is less than 20 seconds that you're gonna spend by having that slower speed over 20 blocks. So that is also good.
It would be great to have a conversation with DOT about some options, because they definitely have been a lot more, free thinking than they used to be as far as highways design goes.
Those discussions I had with DOT, and, they're tough nut to break, let's put it that way. But I'm not saying it can't be done, it really has to happen. And, we have to continue on that path. But yeah, they're definitely tough to change.
And it would just be great to make them, like landscaping, that kind of stuff, would be wonderful, to make it look better, because that's one of the biggest things.
One addition to that note is, we think if it's gonna be reconfigured, there would not be, parking on Summit Street, it would be on the side streets. Parking, I think, would be a deterrence in this case. That's all up for discussion. Yeah.
Do we have any other, two, Commissioner?
Yes, I would like to say, I think anything that we can do to slow the traffic down and to create more crossings is very, very important, because Highway 17 bifurcates both the residential areas and the commercial areas. So I'm not really clear, does the orange area that you're depicting there go all the way up to Winn-Dixie? Where does that stop?
That stops at Eucalyptus.
I'm not talking about the 10-block area, I'm talking about, what's
No.
the,
There's a
Over here, that's Vernon,
oh,
so
that's just Vernon.
that's just Vernon.
Because, Charles, how far north does our North CRA go?
Yes.
Winn-Dixie.
It goes to the North CRA.
Yeah.
It goes all the way to Sitka.
Okay, so just to let you know, in the past, we had a workshop and we had DOT here, and I believe the residents who live on the other side of Winn-Dixie and the stable lots, they were very interested in crossing points for Highway 17. And it really is awful, because the speed limit goes up to, I think, 45 once you get past Vernon, and it's terrible, nobody.
We can ask for it right there at Winn-Dixie and got denied here.
Right, I know, there's all
Yeah,
kinds of
things.
exceptions, but I'm saying the residents have asked for that.
Go back and.
Yes, I think that's a good policy initiative that we can list in our recommendations that, the city take up with DOT and make sure that that speed is reduced from city limit to city limit. And especially within downtown, take it down even further to that 25.
Well, if you can do that, I will be a big fan and decide that you have magic powers, so, I mean,
We have anything else?
Yeah, I do.
Opportunity to do this.
So, okay, my comment, is about moving City Hall to co-locate it with the fire station and the police department. Or the sheriff's substation, sorry. We don't own that much property up there. I'm a little befuddled about taking City Hall away from downtown because, well, I don't see the point of making kind of a massive, dense complex that really backs up to a residential area, and it's beside a church and a cemetery. I don't think that such a massive structure is necessarily helpful there. And traditionally, the downtown in Crescent City is where Central and 17 kind of cross. So to me, if you were gonna, I think the City Hall makes more sense either where it is or someplace closer to Central. And as I understand it, I mean, most places that I've lived or I go, City Hall is a place that draws people to downtown. It complements the commercial area. This is where you come to get permits and pay your water bill and find things out and come to meetings. So to me, this is the central location, and I think that it's helpful to have it more in this vicinity. Things moving farther north, I don't get the feasibility or desirability of that. Because then you'll have parking and driving and whatever, it's gonna impact the residential neighborhood as well. So,
Point taken. I think the way we saw it is that that's at one end of the downtown, and then Leon Park is on the other end of downtown, and then Central Avenue is in the middle of downtown. So it's all like one big walkable district when it all fills up. Because it's only 3 blocks from here. And what it does is actually releases this prime location for better and more active that's the, but, point taken.
And I think after our workshop on Monday and looking at the requirements for the fire station, I don't know if there's much room on that site to, build City Hall. I mean, it'd be really tight, but just as, as we were just discussing the, possibilities, I don't know, it seems like that would be a lot to try and squeeze into that one piece of property, but that's for another time period, but I do think City Hall could be in a better location and better building.
I didn't put us here.
No,
No offense taken, I sure didn't put us here. So let's continue.
Okay. All right, opportunity area 3. So this is the old middle school site, which had the largest amount of feedback from the community and residents. So the way we're seeing this here is, if you peel it off, it's like 4 blocks. The first block here on Central, then the second block really is all the historic buildings, which is in there. And the third block is this larger vacant area with that one building in there. And we're actually trying to suggest that all of this, including Sunrise Park, is seen in its context. The ideas that are going forward is preserving all of these into more of a civic kind of cultural use, some historic use, whatever that programming is. So it's something that benefits the community at large. This could be a possible mixed-use building in front with a parking garage in the back, that can serve this function, which would have a significant amount of traffic, and that can serve some of the functions along Central Avenue. Sunrise Park, we had some extensive discussions on that, because really, Sunrise Park is the foreground for these lovely historic buildings, and it could be much more had that not been a boat ramp and a trailer parking area, but we understand the sentiments of that. However, on the southern edge of it, where there's that gazebo there, I think there's an opportunity for kind of bleeding all of these, the public spaces, connecting all of this up and then leading it out onto the water. Because I think there's an opportunity, if you separate Sunrise Park and the trailer parking and the boat ramp from a little sliver of land that can actually take out some of these, give some more access from these buildings right up to the waterfront. Meaning that it will become some kind of a master plan, contiguous land that can get access to the waterfront. There could be events, there could be weddings and things like that. You could have much more of a function of that could be monetized in a way. This large site, the third block, the recommendation rather is to have some kind of a mixed use or mixed residential. We're talking about condominiums, townhomes, low-rise apartments, and some kind of a marina or boat slips that can actually promote the waterfront lifestyle. So it does put more rooftops within downtown and of a more a stronger base, a residential base that can actually help make some of these activities more viable. We know Three Bananas have reduced their hours as well. I mean, as much as we're talking about extending and having more activity, I mean, that's purely driven by business. So I think all of that could help revitalize, get a good dining place within downtown if those rooftops are installed. So that's the idea. It's pretty straightforward, and I think there's as much consensus as this on this recommendation as with any.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyway, sorry about that. Someone in the audience is making faces. So there was a meeting specifically here on not Sunrise Park, on the Miller Middle School, and there were drawings made. I think city manager sent those to you,
Yes.
it also there's an auditorium in that complex? Okay, because that, I don't see that mentioned anywhere.
That's right.
Yeah, they're repurposed the old school auditorium.
Okay, well,
So all of these 5 buildings, so we're saying keeping all of these 5 buildings.
Yeah, sorry, I can't read any of that.
Main building for civic and cultural.
Okay, because you've never mentioned it, and yes, that was cultural. So the part with the rooftops and the marina, is that the very southern part, the 5 acres that the
Yes,
school board has for
that's
sale?
correct. That's correct.
Okay, which is currently for sale, so
Correct.
we have to, come up with something for that, and, so in the Sunrise Park, as I understand it, part of that was developed with federal money.
Right.
And so I think there are restrictions on what we do with that park.
Right. Yeah, understood. Yeah, I'm aware of that.
I mean, we haven't reviewed those recently. It was my understanding that at some point Sunrise Park was supposed to have a marina there. Was that not?
That was the idea, that's why they put the knots.
Right.
I think there's like 12 slips there.
Yeah, there's a slip there.
Okay, so I don't know what we told the federal government.
So I guess as we go through this, we need to look at, what restrictions we have based on FWC or the feds.
Sunrise Park is
Isn't it?
great, yeah, it's FWC.
Yeah, it's FWC.
And then, but I remember, I think it's where we got all the money from, but, I mean, you're not saying changing really the park, we just wanna connect the rest of the area around to it.
Because if you look, the trailers it doesn't go all the way to the south.
Right.
So there's a little piece of land where that, you look out in the gazebo is, if we could actually kind of link that to those historic buildings in some kind of a way, through lighting and walkways, it becomes more part of that site, because right now, it's kind of a clear block, you don't have waterfront access, so all of a sudden that you've opened up that, if you're renting that facility, you're renting a waterfront facility.
When if you live on Prospect Street, you want to walk down to Sunrise Park, you can't. You have to
Right,
walk all the way down to Central and around and.
right, it gives
It's
an,
not.
So you're looking at proposing to open that up so that,
yeah,
Yeah.
that southern edge.
Okay.
And we're also proposing to kind of reconnect this, at least to Cypress Avenue.
Yes. Is that listed there, because I can't see it?
It's not listed there, but it's
Right, I
it's part
thought
of it.
that was a wonderful idea,
Yes, that's
particularly as a pedestrian path.
exactly, and a bike and trail, like a 10 feet wide and a nice facility. And that actually opens up the view to the church, and it just gives us an additional, opportunity to get through.
Commissioners, do you have Commissioner Bird, Commissioner Banks? You good? Okay, let's move on, if we can, to opportunity explore.
Opportunity 4, this is the area along Lake Stella. The main recommendation is to fill these vacant areas. Granted that a lot of it is actually old cypress trees and it's limited, but whatever opportunity there is to have some more stable housing, it just becomes a more viable proposition to get, improve the overall quality of the area. There's been complaints about, the quality of the housing there. And also it actually helps to kind of feed your downtown. It becomes more viable, just as the middle school site from the other side. That's the opportunity. And also improve the actual pier on that lake and wildlife watching area, bird sunset view, and maximize the use of the trail and the beach and create that different waterfront active lifestyle. We've seen many examples, I've said this in several meetings, of how this particular concept in Newport Richey, not that we want that high density, but that really has sustained the Main Street in Newport Richey, because all of a sudden you've created a nice, different kind of lifestyle, that attractive for someone who's a working person who has that waterfront that he couldn't afford anywhere else. Living in Jacksonville, maybe it's bringing the children back, something that's available. There's mixed responses on this. I've seen 1 or 2 responses about just leaving this in the survey, just leaving this alone. But overall, from the planning and zoning and from the community, I think there was just overall consensus that that's a good idea.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on
sorry.
that?
Yeah, I have an observation about that. So I wasn't really clear. You're saying on Grand Rondo that instead of single-family housing, we should build multifamily housing next to the lake.
So not next to the lake, on the other side of the street.
Well, that's what, I mean, you're not proposing that we take the public park and put
No, he's
no.
talking about
on the other side.
on the east side of Grand Rondo.
So,
So we would change it from single family to multi-use.
right, when the opportunity presents. I mean, granted, that all of this is private, but at some point in time, when the city is going through a natural redevelopment process and, it,
Windstream could close, they could move somewhere else, and that would open up that property right there. So
Correct.
that's where you're seeing that it could possibly be some mixed use right there.
right.
Right, but my thought was,
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
well, my thought was that, anything you do, that little space of green, that's actually the only, conservation land in the entire city. It's the only conservation land in the city. And, the current activities that are not conservation oriented have already affected, I'm sorry, just one way. Oh, sure, go ahead. So, I mean, there's references in here to enjoying wildlife, but again, you've got two kind of conflicting goals. After you bring a certain amount of activity, you're not going to have any wildlife to enjoy. And I think, because that's what happens, if you go look at the Winn-Dixie parking lot, you're not going to be, bird watching. The other observation that I have is that, only part of Lake Stella is city property. There's a huge property on the north side of Lake Stella that's for sale, including the waterfront. And as well, that beautiful view that people talk about all the time, that's county property. And like you're talking about, where we should include Bear Island in the plan, we have no idea what the view across the lake is going to be. I mean, so it could be anything. It could be, who knows? I mean, the county can rezone it. So my feeling is if the views across Lake Stella are important to people, should there be some kind of provision made to talk to the county or, to look into, the zoning that, and the uses in the future. And I think it's in our comprehensive plan that we're supposed to talk to the county about various things. Is Lake Stella gonna stay Lake Stella?
Yes, it is.
It will not change, it will remain.
And I would just like to say that,
I was talking about the
Okay,
things that, right, but she said it's always gonna be Lake Stella. Well, I know, but what's it gonna look like on the other side? Is it going to be urbanized? Is it gonna become an industrial park? Right now, we have no control of it.
Nobody's proposing that. Go ahead.
And I just
Do you
wanted,
know?
just wanted to point out that, increasing the density a bit is not going to destroy the park, it's not going to just destroy the animals. I mean, that's why our LDCs are important, that we make sure that the development is smart and is respectful of those things, but I don't think building a few townhomes along Stella is gonna destroy all the wildlife. I mean, I just think that, we're not talking about destroying the park, we just want to maybe increase the housing options, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So we won't be touching anything in the conservation area. As a matter of fact, we're proposing enhancing some of the conservation area to retain, its conservation properties. One of the recommendations, which is beyond our scope, but we did list it as we saw this as a whole when we came from the contextual level to the city level, is about annexation. And we had this discussion with Charles, and I said, one of the options is to extend the city limits all the way up to Union Avenue. That's option one. And then option two really is, if you want to capture some of it all depends on where you want to go, is all the way up to the tracks, the rail line. So that's the other option. So I think Union Avenue is a reasonable option because it gives you an additional north-south corridor parallel to 17, which you could control. And
Going west out on the freeway.
Yes.
Okay, I was thinking going west 17 to Union, I'm like, no, that's way too far.
Bust out,
I'm gonna do that.
really.
okay, opportunity area, is that okay, ma'am? Opportunity Area 5, Uptown District Center. So this is we discussed this initially, but really all of those commercial parcels from the Save-A-Lot and all the way up to the Winn-Dixie area, and possibly behind when it gets to the natural process. We know that there's a cemetery there and the land is constrained, but the whole idea is to have like an uptown district center, which is a modern version of your downtown. It's like two dumbbells, two ends of the dumbbell. And that, if you couple it with Fletcher Park, it becomes a really viable area for new families, people that are having secure jobs to look at an opportunity to have a lakefront or waterfront lifestyle. So we haven't heard anything. So it would be, some more commercial, possibly some apartments, low-rise apartments, obviously, condos, townhomes, and some, more children-oriented commercial activities that can attract more people. And the other discussion was to have promote some kind of a medical facility in there with pharmacy. So all of this needs rooftop. So fundamentally, you need to like stabilize the housing. Then then comes everything else. There was a discussion about how those housing, if we can stabilize the housing and have an influx of new and different kinds of residents, it could actually improve the schools. And then your schools get better, then the houses get better, and it's like a cyclical
They feed off of
situation.
one another.
Yeah, and that's the way to just improve overall your public infrastructure and the quality of the services you provide. Nothing on this. I mean, we don't hear any other comment on this other than
The areas that you have going down to the lake, that's Grove Avenue, is that where the fish camp is?
yeah, that's the fish camp. I think we should take that out and just keep it on the east side.
Spend all time and money on the fish camp.
No,
Yeah, that's a lot that's directly south of it, where the pine trees are.
Yeah.
That was originally going to be developed as Marina Park. There was like 2-story condos and commercial, that was there, that was back in
This
2007.
this area.
Yes,
Okay,
and
yeah.
then also McDonald's was there, but it was.
Yeah.
McDonald's was on there.
Yeah.
But that to me is that land goes all the way down to the water and is owned by a development company that would make more sense as far as development for housing and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And on the other side too,
Yeah.
On the
just
side?
before you get to Winn-Dixie, no, I'm sorry, I'm on the same, on the
Lakeside
east
there.
side, on the lake side, just before you get to Winn-Dixie. That's what, 17 acres, I believe,
Been for sale.
and it's been for sale, so, and there's plans that they brought back in 05, really interesting plans back in 05 for that property too, housing.
Wait, is this particular plot?
Yeah, so.
Is that it? Just
So
on
that's
the
what, that's
No,
what,
for
yeah,
the big wide area there,
Yeah,
Okay.
all the way to the lake there.
yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
That was like a condominium project.
yeah,
And
kind of,
that's, yeah, that's.
Exactly the housing you're talking about.
Yes.
Complexes there.
Okay.
do we have any, questions on area 5? No questions. The one thing an observation with the data, is that, I see in here no grocery stores. And is that the feedback you got from people, or was that an observation? Because we have 2 grocery stores, and Commissioner DeVito was correct. I mean, while other areas there's people there, they don't have the services, and they all come to Crescent City.
I think that feedback, that was a community response about a local grocery store, I think was a reflection that there was a grocery store on
Okay,
Central Avenue at some point.
okay.
And
Okay,
It's
and
a
they wanted
local
to see that again, okay, I just saw that in there, and I just said, well, I saw it several places about
local grocery.
the no local grocery stores, and that's what I asked you earlier, is that like a mom and pop type grocery store? Okay. I don't, in some small communities that do not have a Winn-Dixie or Save-A-Lot that there has to compete against, yeah,
I think ultimately, if we can get a Publix on the south side, then. it would be-
well, yeah, then I think we all might enjoy that. We all might enjoy that. Any other questions? Okay,
The last one is on the southern end, which we call the South Side Neighborhood Center. So it's not as big as the district center on the north side, but really this is about providing convenience commercial a gas station, we're proposing a larger gas station, some better commercial, development on the other side. Some other commercial that's got, some more opportunity in terms of serving, the downtown and the south side areas as and when these new developments come on board. So there's, pretty much, I think, general consensus at the public meeting and from the feedback that we've received, that this is overall a good idea, especially with the new RV park coming up.
We're gonna need something to service them down on that end, yes.
On, as far as fuel, because there's no way you can fuel up a RV.
There's no way, or Larry, yeah, either one of those, they're gonna need definitely that.
And that, the self-made rig was purchased recently, or what, sorry, circle, whatever,
Okay,
you know, that building down there.
that's okay.
Was purchased, but I don't see it happening yet.
I have one comment about this. Okay, so the pictures that you show are just, hopefully they're just pictures of commercial because they're very unattractive. And they're not really what we've talked about, with our goals in our land development code as, being more in tune with the appearance that fits in with the historic area and quaintness.
Their gate station is pretty, that looks very, different than a normal gate station. The walls, they all look the same.
Well, yeah, the point is taken, I think, even the bigger chains, they are flexible.
Well, I mean, for example,
I think these are not something, it's correct me before we get down this rabbit hole. I believe these are just examples that you
Of
use,
uses.
that this is not what's gonna come out in the final. Yeah, these are just an example of usage, not what we're approving as far as structures here in present.
But I think
Correct.
the idea is still the tradition is, when they do come, we want them to look.
We want them to
Appropriate for
be,
the
yes, they have to be
Yeah.
appropriate.
That's good feedback.
and you mentioned that historical pictures of oak trees along 17.
Yeah.
I was noticing, at, Highway 40 and 17, I think there's a new Circle K there, and it actually has a whole buffer of natural vegetation. It actually looks very nice.
Well, it's slowly coming down. You'll notice the last couple of times I've driven past there, they're slowly opening that up to where people can see it. So we'll see what happens, let's see what happens with it.
Yeah, I know, they're making their driveway. Yeah, I was just there.
So we'll see what happens with it, but, a lot of communities will do that, they have to have a buffer. They have to have a buffer. So,
That's all I have.
is that it?
Yeah, and again, this is just feedback, this is all available online.
Okay.
So until Monday, we're still collecting more feedback. So every opportunity area is there as a slide, and then you can comment on that. So if there's anything that's missed, I think even those watching on TV, it's telecast, right?
Yes,
Yes.
you're on TV, you're live. You're live. And Charles, it's my understanding that you talked to some of the civic organizations as far as going and speaking to them too, to try to gather.
Correct, we're projecting the draft will come out, the end of the first week of December.
Correct.
And then, I'll take it to show as a PowerPoint presentation to any organization wants me to speak. It'll go to the Planning and Zoning Commission in December, and then it'll come to you in January. The draft will come to you in January, your meeting in January.
And that's just been, that's my concern is that at these meetings that we've been having, these open houses that we've been having, it's the same group of people that have been coming, and I'm very appreciative of that, but it's only representative of maybe 20 people when we've got, 1,700. And so I guess as much as we can possibly, I know you're doing everything you can, you can't make them do this, but it's important that the public, that this is their opportunity, to tell us what they're looking for.
You say we put the draft online, and comment online.
Yes. So
Okay.
yeah, we could do that as well in December or in January. We can actually put the draft and then have another set of comments and then finalize the whole thing.
Okay, yeah, because I know we had a timeline, but that doesn't mean we have to stay within that timeline, is that correct, or do we have to stay within that timeline? I know you would like to be done with this, but we just need to make sure that we've done everything we can to, and I know you are, I know you are.
Yeah.
To that point, so, hey, I was surprised when I found that the master plan was on the website. And then I tried to find it, and it's not really easy to find. You have those little tabs that are on the side, and as you scroll down the homepage to look for everything, those tabs get small, and all it is just a green square. And I remember it said, visioning and master plan, that's where it is. So I think you might need to put it in a more obvious place, because it's not easy to find. And I'm looking for it.
We're very limited with the format, and that's where it's the only place you can go. So we can send out the link, it'll take you right to that page, so you don't have to go down the page, which we've done before.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am, and then I need to open it up for public comment.
Just want to make sure I heard this correctly, and then I want to make sure your question was answered. One, did I hear Benoit say that there's a deadline for making the comments?
For the survey, right now, there's a survey that.
Right, so that deadline is Monday?
Monday, end of day Monday, yeah.
Okay, because I didn't see that on the little piece of paper.
It was open from the public meeting, so usually we leave it open for 10 days, which is a good, and after that it drops off.
Right, but that's, wait, no.
I knew it was, I saw it, I think we've been putting it out there on social media too, haven't you, Charles, to please reach out to fill out the survey.
Okay, but so this is bottom line, Monday is the last day
Correct.
to do it, and City Hall is closed tomorrow. So, like, there's no way to send an alert out, like last chance or something. And then the other thing, the mayor asked specifically, do we have any flexibility, or do you have to stay with the existing timeline? We're off of it a little bit. Is that allowable?
I think, Charles, it's driven by your grant or something.
It was initially, but we didn't get the grant, so it's not constrained by the grant, but.
Right, I mean,
And I'm not saying drag it out, I just wanna make sure that I know there's been some criticism that we're not within that timeline, we're behind, and to me, that's okay, because we're trying to do everything we can to gather as much data and input from the public, and I just wanna make sure that we're okay with that.
Yeah, we'll work with you on that, and I think, we can make sure that, and we've been actually working closely with Charles and making sure that there's as much, and just for reference, I think, we are not short on public comment, so there's a lot of comment. Compared to other communities that we work with, we don't see as much discourse or comment. But for all that being said, I think there's so much comment from what I'm reading, from where I'm coming as an outsider and looking at the data and looking at the feedback. There's so much in common than actually there is a difference.
I really enjoyed, thank you for sharing all the feedback, because I really enjoyed going through and hearing the different perceptions of everybody. I thought it was interesting and kind of the same common theme that we were hearing through those two. Commissioners, do you have any other questions before I open up for public comment? Commissioner Burton, you're good? Okay. Okay, thank you, and I'm gonna open it up for public comment. You probably, just want to stay close by. Yes, sir. Okay, this time I'm gonna open it up for public comment. We don't have, things on this, so I don't have anybody to speak, but I know there's people that are ready to speak, so please come forward. You have, 3 minutes here, and if you will state your name and your address, if you will, please.
Good evening, Danny Miller, 1400 Sunset Drive, Winter Park. There seems to be a tremendous amount of plan and process confusion. I heard it at the P&Z level, and we've heard some from the commission tonight. And these are the folks that are within government and in the best position to know. Also, I'm personally hearing it from some people, some members of the public. And it's kind of, what's the master plan? I also heard, well, why should we come to the meeting? They won't listen anyhow. I don't say that to embarrass anyone or to be critical, because I know that the tremendous effort has been expended. to try to get public involvement. Here's me as a simple statement of facts. There seems to be a glaring disconnect. Typically, launching of most successful initiatives, particularly something as broad as this, as a predicate to it, you, on the front end, you set the objective. This is what we're doing. This is what we're all about. And then you state the imperative. This is why it's important that we do this. And that's the way you begin to engage the public, because you need the public in on the front end to make the contribution that we're all hoping for. And then relentlessly, just relentlessly communicate with the public, because things are invariably gonna change. And they want to know what's going on, otherwise they'll feel left behind and disengaged. And they'll lose confidence in the process. When that happens, you lose the public support. Now, Charles has spoken to the special meetings and the roadshow. That'll go a long way. The next draft, though, is, or actually, I guess the first draft is gonna be at the December meeting. Did I hear correctly?
It comes in the January to this commission.
January, okay, January.
PNC, Charles, right?
It goes to P and Z and
PSC will get it first. Here's one suggestion, we are a little bit behind, yes, but maybe this is an opportunity to take another look at the schedule, the planning schedule, and maybe back things up a bit to let the public catch up to the process. As you do your road show, it'll allow people to give input. The Monday deadline for comments, perhaps that could be pushed back. But enough said on that. The other thing, very quickly, I've heard that there are three things considered: data, public input, and the consultants. Now, I've also heard, may I finish this thought, please?
Please finish that thought, yes.
Thank you, appreciate that. We've also heard that talk of the city hall being relocated to Summit Street. In the data, I don't recall seeing that appearing anywhere. And the public comments, I think P and Z meeting specifically was mentioned, I don't recall hearing that. So that kind of leaves the consultant in the face of overwhelming public sentiment to relocate and consolidate all government offices to the former school building, which is, 50,000 square feet, as opposed to building a new facility on arguably a very tight lot. So I would encourage the consultants to take another look at that, and specifically the economic justification for the Summit Street location as opposed to the school location. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers? Please come forward.
Diane Sykes, Airport Chestnut. I don't know how to say this without sounding critical. I guess it is critical. This is like the third time we've done this. And in 2018, the last thing the consultant said before he left the podium was, I hope you don't just take this plan and stick it on the shelf. And that's what we've done in the past. What's going to make this one different?
Okay, do we have any other speakers? Yes, ma'am, please come forward. State your name and your address, if you please.
My name is Zinnia. I am at the 11 North Lake Street building, across from Blue Bananas, and I just wanted to give some positive feedback from all this. I did not grow up here. I moved here from a very busy area, St. Petersburg, Florida, beach, Tampa, everything. They have everything. It was definitely a change, a culture change for me. But I love it here, it's beautiful, and I love the ideas, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing the city flourish in different ways. and also maintaining its character, its beauty, its natural beauty. So I just wanted to give that feedback. Thank you.
I'm Charlotte Preston, 428 North Summit Street. I agree with Mr. Miller that you guys need to be relentless in getting these forms to the people. I mean, I did it just because of BJ, but if we only have 62 people, that's not enough to have any kind of mandate, I don't think. I mean, I could walk now, I can carry surveys door to door. Without a paper though, we need a paper. Sorry.
No, that's okay, thank you. And I hope the sentiment, I mean, I hope the takeaway here is that, you know, the commission, it's important to the commission. And I'm not sure who's saying that that we won't listen. I feel like tonight it's that's what we want, is we want everyone's feedback. We're listening. I don't have anybody coming, tracking me down, and I'm trackable. I know all of us are trackable, you know, to say, this is what we want, this is what we want. You're not listening. By all means, that's what we're hoping to do, but there's only so much you can do as far as getting people to respond. You know, a lot of people, it's just, well, will it affect me or not? So your neighbors, you know, I'm gonna put this on the residents, I'm gonna put it on, you know, everybody. You know, speak to your neighbors, say, you know, please get involved. Give your input. This is important. It's important to the future of Crescent City. And, you know, so it's not just the city for us to do all of that, especially right here, it's everybody. If you're interested, reach out to your neighbors, get them involved, drag them in here if you have to. You know, it's important. It's important to all of us. So with that, we have any other public comment? Yes, ma'am?
I just have one more thing, real quick.
Okay.
I just sent the survey to my tenants virtually, scanned it, sent it to them so they can take it, Facebook, you know, and I asked them to send it to others that they know that live in the city to also do it. I didn't know the survey existed till just now, so I'm gonna take it, but, just suggestions for some of us that are here, that, you know, just passing it along virtually can help some.
Thank you. Charles, did this come out in the water? Did we put anything in the water bill?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do.
This one did not.
This one, but the first one did.
Yeah, because the timing worked out when the water bill,
For the water bill.
first one came out, the water bill.
So we did put it in the water bill. Okay. Wait, Commissioner Banks asked first, yes.
Well, maybe we need to ask the citizens, what can we do to get more heads in the community that come to the commission meeting? All through the years, it's just a very few people in attendance, very few. All through the years, and I'm talking about 40 years, very few people come out. If we're not advertising it correctly,
Food.
y'all have food.
Real food.
Yeah.
One thing I know, we get on one subject and we kill it. And a lot of people get up and tell us about it. And they don't get what we completely talk about during the meeting. So I don't know, maybe we need to brainstorm the citizens, maybe they can help us, give us the input and tell us what we can do to get more of our citizens in attendance to the meeting.
A draw prize at the end of the meeting.
There you go.
What did you say? What? A draw prize at the end of the meeting.
I'm gonna bring this in, Commissioner DeVito, just
Quickly, a very positive observation. I think we have more than just 4 people in the front row, which is what I remember from past years. Diane, you and I were 2 and 4. But as well, would it be possible to ask the planning firm since Friday is a holiday, and we don't have the opportunity to send out, you know, last chance to do survey number 2. Could they possibly leave it open until at least midweek next week? Maybe Wednesday or Thursday?
Yes.
Just close it out on Friday. Can you close it out next Friday?
Sure.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, that's it. Okay, let's move on to, then close out the CRA.
Oh, wait.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm so sorry.
That is on the list.
So this item, bringing back to
Not
you,
happy with me.
we had a discussion in the grant awards, and we went out and visited the site, decided your direction was to have the fitters stipulate at least 4-inch depth of the rocks to add a stormwater element to the aesthetic improvement. So they've done that, the bids came back, and this was, the recommendation was for a 50% award. And so the, at least another Vargas bid came back below bid, same amount, and we're recommending award of that 50% of that amount for $3,000.
Okay,
I'll
Commissioner,
make a motion to approve, staff recommendation to grant $3,000 to expand the parking area at 11 North.
That was for the hardscape.
Street.
hardscape, this is hardscape.
Oh, I'm sorry, that is an error in the, what you're looking at, we awarded 4,500 to expand the parking area, now this is 3,000 to get a hardscape, 50% of the hardscape.
The rocks and the thing,
Bottom of that, not the last line.
the very last.
Okay, I did the very last line. For Vargas bid, so let's mistake.
Oh, I'm sorry, I think you're reading the expand the parking area, the very first line.
Right.
That's the previous policy.
So what we have before us is to pay 50% of the quote that we have for the hardscape, which would be no more than $3,000.
That's right.
That was your,
That's where I went, yeah, I'm sorry, I kind of,
That's okay, if you'll just make that motion, that'll be,
I did.
okay. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to, grant the 50% award for no more than $3,000. Do we have any discussion, commissioners?
I just have an observation. I was concerned from the beginning about the adequacy of the plan to do stormwater mitigation. As I understand it, it's 4 inches of rock. I'm not sure if that's enough. I'm not sure we looked into it sufficiently. It was my understanding that the water management district says that water is not supposed to flow off the property. I contacted the city manager about that with some questions today, and he said that's not an issue, that it doesn't matter if more water flows into the street.
Well, I don't think more water is gonna flow, I think it flows into the street now and will continue, this will just help a little bit with where it's washing around the building.
Right, because the handwritten part in here says the plan is to prevent pooling and encourage the water to flow down into the street. That's what the handwritten part says.
Yeah, that's the second bid, that's not the intention of the grant.
Well, I don't know, I just,
That's not Vargas's bid.
Yeah.
That's not Vargas's bid, so.
okay, but he's got 4 inches of the rock. Okay, well, to me, this suggests to us that we need to look at the stormwater, because they're saying we saw the water flowing down the hill, and then if more water goes into the street, it's gonna flow onto the property south of that. But, okay, just saying, stormwater is an issue on this slope.
And I think all of us, that are on those hills, we always, I mean, there's no way of really preventing water from actually going, I mean, I should see in front of my house after a storm.
Right, well, actually, when we're making improvements, there are ways, there are a lot of ways, we're just not doing them. That's what I meant by
Okay,
calls for.
do we have any other discussion on this? If not, I'm gonna, Karen,
Public comment?
do we have public comment on it? Do we have anybody that would like to speak on this? No, I'm gonna close out public comment. Karen, will you do a roll call, please?
Commissioner Burton,
Aye.
Commissioner Banks,
Aye.
Commissioner Lori,
Aye.
Commissioner DeVito,
Aye.
Mayor Myers.
Aye. Okay, so moved. Now I'm gonna close out the CRA and reconvene our regularly scheduled commission meeting.
Mayor, this next item is a lien reduction request that we're bringing straight to the commission because we're trying to assist the property owner. Lien became apparent and began to try to sell the property. And actually, Pam's here to give the whole story on this case. We'll do a presentation for you.
Oh, and Mayor, if I could, I think there's something on our desk.
There it is, there's an additional
If everybody has.
fine reduction
Right, there we go, it's the lien reduction request.
Who's over this?
I sent it.
No, I haven't.
You ready?
Okay.
Good evening. This is a case for lien and fine reduction. It's Donna Thomas and Darby Julia Reed. It's case number 1207. Should be only 20, well, should be 20, there's an extra 0 there, 0731. That's parcel ID numbers there, the 508 Orange Avenue is the address. This case was presented to the Code Enforcement Board on September 25th, 2012. Code Enforcement Board ordered the property be in compliance by July 31st, 2012, or a fine of $200 per day would begin to accrue.
Did they stop you right there? If they had, if the code enforcement board met on September 25th, how did they order the property to be in compliance by July?
You can order the compliance date back to the original when the code enforcement first observed the violation.
I didn't understand that, that's all.
They often do that.
Okay.
We have a code board hearing on the day and I'll date it back to whenever the notice of code violation was issued. And that's what they did in this case.
Okay.
On June 5th, 2013, the Code Enforcement Board approved abatement of the city to abate the property. This is a copy of the code that was originally cited to Ms. Thomas. Section 10, Chapter 10, Section 10-20. Chapter 10, Section 10-23, 24, and 10-27. There was an above-ground pool on this property, and it was breeding mosquitoes.
Is that what they abated? Was that the abatement?
There was
the
other
above-ground pool?
trash and debris there also,
Okay.
and they removed all of that. The current owner bought the property in 2015, put the lien in place, and Ms. Reed bought it from Fannie Mae on July 15th, 2015. I believe you have copies of all these documents. I made a copy of the whole code enforcement file,
Now,
so you have everything that I have.
may I ask you?
Yes.
Yes,
So once the abatement was done, and that was in 2013, correct?
correct,
Before she had bought the property?
yes,
Okay, it was in compliance, correct?
correct.
Okay, so at that point in time, I'll let you continue, I just want.
Did the fee stop at that point in time when she came into compliance?
When the,
When the abatement was done and
in 2013, Ms. Thomas had already vacated the property,
okay.
best I can tell. So the city abated it,
Okay.
the bank took possession of it, and then they sold it to Ms. Reed.
The fine stop accruing.
Yes, it was 253 days of non-compliance.
Okay, so it did, when we abated it, when the city abated it, we,
And the only reason I know that is because the code officer wrote a note in the folder,
okay.
Now,
which I'm very grateful for.
now, the $200 I think is pretty excessive, that you put on this.
Pam didn't do that,
But, no, I understand that, I'm saying code enforcement.
Right.
That's the general term, so I'm not blaming you.
Okay,
It just seems a little excessive, And it was explained, because I asked about that, that because there was four violations?
There were 4 violations,
And that's why that happened.
$50 per violation on.
I just want people to understand that before we,
Okay, so it went into a foreclosure situation, and it appears that she bought it in foreclosure.
After it was foreclosed on.
Okay. Has it been in violation since that time?
Not to my knowledge, it has not.
She was told there was no lien, right?
Right. That was in the, fine reduction form, Ms. Reed included the emails that she received from the title company back in 2015, that the title was free and clear. This is a picture I took of the house on November 2nd, just to give you a reference. The property is in compliance. Recommended to grant the lien reduction due to a hardship with the current property owner, and then I broke it down by 10%, 20%. The abatement cost was $100, administrative cost ordered by the code enforcement board was $55.65. And the total is $50,755.65. And Ms. Reed is here if you'd like to speak with her.
And she currently has the, property up for sale, correct?
Correct.
I guess she must go by a different name that we have on this.
Yeah, recommend.
Okay.
Recommend, yes.
Commissioners, do we want to hear from, Ms. Rushman first before we go forward with this? Or does she want to speak? Does she want to speak?
Well,
Hi, good evening.
the reason I'm selling my house is because my husband passed away. You all pretty much know him. His name was Caesar Rushman, and he worked for the prison. I had no idea, none, that this lien was I would have never bought this house. I was told in good faith that there was no lien on this house, and that they did their job, and that's why I have showed proof that, there was no lien on this house. The people that are interested in buying this house are from Ohio, and they're older, and they want to fix it up, and they want to use it for a winter home. I turned down 25 offers because they're all investors. And I did not want to sell it for rental property. I wanted to sell it to somebody who would love it because I love the home. That's it.
Thank you. And we're sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Caesar was a good man. Okay, commissioners, can I entertain a motion at this time?
Yes, I would like to move that we reduce the, what are we looking at here?
The fine reduction.
Right, that we reduce the fine, to a total of $250. Payable, Pam, do you have a recommendation for us on closing? I don't know, when do they expect to close?
Do you have a closing schedule? We were supposed to close on the 6th, but we're waiting for what happens.
Okay, I would say, due to the hardship, to make it payable on closing. And that would cover the actual abatement cost to the city, the administrative cost of $55.65, and a little over for just whatever, to make a round figure of $250.
Do I have a second?
May I make a suggestion?
Okay, the motion's gonna fail for lack of a second. Yes, ma'am?
I would suggest if you're gonna reduce the fine and lien, that you give a specific date, 60 days from today or something like that.
And because there's a lien on it, the closing, they should, as she goes to closing, they should hold on to that into
Right.
making it pay
Closing or,
so
within 60 days.
within 60 days.
It'll be paid immediately.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we reduce the lien to 0 and take care of this right now.
Okay, I'll second it. I have a motion and a second. Commissioners, do we have any further discussion? Okay. I'm gonna go ahead, Karen, if you want to do a roll call, please.
Commissioner DeVito,
Aye.
Commissioner Lori,
Aye.
Commissioner Banks,
Aye.
Commissioner Burton,
Nay.
Mayor Myers.
Aye. Okay, so, sometimes, and Pam, I know this is part of, doing the cleanup and making sure that property owners are aware of this. This has come to us several times. I know this is definitely, a tough decision for us because, it was out there and we've got to address it. So hopefully this is one more that's cleaned up and taken care of and we can take care of it on the books.
Tomorrow being a holiday, we'll be closed tomorrow. We can get the release of lien prepared Monday, and I can file it on Tuesday.
Yes, ma'am. So it's going to take a look, till Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday, we'll file the lien.
Release of liens.
The release of the lien, so it'll be available Wednesday, right? If we file on Tuesday?
Well, yeah, I'll have it Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah. The latest would be Wednesday.
Everybody gonna be available?
It could be paid Wednesday.
This is
zero.
the-
There's nothing is due.
There's nothing to pay.
Oh,
Nothing is due.
It's zero. And Mayor, I have an observation about this home. I mean, certainly Ms. Beckman, when she bought it, the property was in compliance. I walk by that property at least 3 times a week. I cannot remember a time in the last 5 years, probably before, that property wasn't clean and tidy and, an asset to the neighborhood. And, I mean, there's been no issue with it.
We appreciate you. Someone's, someone else to continue on. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Mayor, the next item is approval of RFQ 2023-01. This is the commission that directed me or approved issuing RFQ for historic preservation architect services, specifically for the Sonic Lodge plans. As I began to write the RFQ, I realized it'd be handy just to have a preservation architect as a continuing services agreement where other things come up, we can get a proposal. So that's my request, to approve the attached RFQ, put it out, we'll bring you back responses, and then we'll choose someone, and then we'll negotiate with them a proposal to create those plans.
Okay. Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve that recommendation to grant the city manager to issue an RFQ 2023-01 for continuing professional architectural services.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a proper motion and a second. Commissioners, do we have any discussion?
Yes, I have a concern about doing a continuing RFQ. When we specifically requested, just for this building only, I know the city manager's trying to be efficient, but this is a very endangered building. My concern is that, we won't necessarily get the best firm for this particular building if we just do a continuing RFQ.
Why not?
Why would we not, how would that affect that?
And you don't,
I would think that would be, they would have an ongoing relationship with us and that would be a positive.
And there's, I think we're people specialized in historic preservation and restoration.
right, but we don't have, we don't have a start date for the actual project. Is that going to slow it down?
No, this is just to get a relationship started, and then we'll ask them to bring us a proposal.
Pardon?
We'll ask them to bring us a proposal to do the plans.
Well, I noticed in here, but won't that make it take longer? If they were doing a proposal, if we put it out there for this specific building, wouldn't things move on a faster track.
You might delay it a little bit by adding this extra step, but I don't think that's hurt the project.
Well, and the other thing is, I noticed on the first page of the RFQ, it's not quite the right name for, it says the 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraph down. It calls it the Blue Moon Lodge, it's actually the New Moon Lodge. Right, and it's on the, I mean, the things that I would think we would want to add, is the address, isn't it 107 North Main Street?
Yes, it is, but this is for just continuing services.
Right,
Just
but then if
reference
they-
that one project.
My thought is that I would think that it would be helpful for someone to see the condition of the building. I would expect it to at least include, like you're saying, the selected firm will develop plans for restoration and renovation of the former Newman Lodge in Crescent City. If you put a picture in and, the address, and I would think that, that would help give people give potential contractors an idea of what our historic district looks like.
I can do that.
Okay, and you can, even if you put the name of the Crescent City Historic District, then they can look at the whole district.
Okay, would you provide him everything that you want him to put in this? And,
Sure.
that would be great.
I already emailed most of it.
Okay.
So.
Charles, my only, concern is that this is through Wednesday, December 6th, and we have holidays on top of this. So is that gonna give you enough time to, do you feel, for firms to,
I think if we don't get a good response, we can
we'll just
come back to
extend
that.
that, okay, I just wanna make sure, I just thought I took made a note of that. Okay. Any further discussion? Can I open it up for public comment? Do we have any public comment on this? Please come forward, state your name. Karen?
Hello, Danny Miller. If I read this correctly, this would be for the purpose of providing historic preservation, architectural services for the entire city, not just the Newman Lodge. Correct?
Yeah, anything like that.
And it's for 3 years, 3 one-year options, at the option of the city. I respectfully suggest that there's potentially a whole lot of such work coming down the pike for this city. And perhaps you might make this a project-specific RFP, and that offers the advantage of kind of taking them out for a spin, seeing what kind of a job they do, and then with the potential for a much larger project. I've got in mind the school presents itself. If they're doing a great job, then they get an opportunity to present an RFP, but wouldn't necessarily want to be locked into them because they have this continuing services contract for 3 plus potentially 3 more years. Thank you.
If we did get to the point where we are needing one for the school, we could also, will we be stuck going with this person, or?
No, we can actually choose multiple firms. We currently have continuing services with, Zenithal Planning and Ayers and Associates for planning, so we can have multiple
Mid-hour
firms.
too, don't we? Don't we have?
Sorry?
With mid-hour, do we have it? No.
Minar is our engineer.
Yes, yeah.
But with our planning, we have 2 firms already, and we just haven't used, Ayers for continuing services. We sent them on, they were awarded a specific RFP.
I'm kind of understanding this as a possibility that that the city won't have to consistently come back to the commission to ask permission to go out and get somebody to come in. That's what this is all about.
Do we have any other public comments at this time? Okay, seeing nobody come forward, I'm going to close public comment. Okay, Karen, we have a proper motion and a second. I'm going to ask you to do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Burton?
Aye.
Commissioner Banks?
Aye.
Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner DeVito?
Aye.
Mayor Myers?
Aye. Okay, so moved.
Mayor, the next item is a consideration of a donation to the city. The Presbyterian Church asked this be placed on the agenda for your consideration. They approached us about The building is pictured in my cover memo. Donated, we would need to move the building to another location if we were accepted, so we'd have to figure out where we want to put it and how to get it there.
And your recommendation is to
Is
decline
to
this
decline.
offer? Okay. Can I entertain a motion?
I move that we decline the generous donation of the Presbyterian Church to, of the building.
Second.
We have a proper motion and a second. Commissioners, do we have any discussion?
I would just like to say that, it says here it has no historical significance. This building is very significant in the fact that it was Dr. Ford's office. There's probably hundreds of babies that were delivered in this building.
It would.
And, Dr. Ford was a very important member of this, community as the only doctor, or one of the only doctors for decades. So it does have an ignored historical significance. Unfortunately, I was part of the group from that VHS that toured it. I mean, I couldn't get inside, but I didn't need to go inside. From the outside, you can tell it's settling, it's rotting, it's in very, very bad, shape. They took it from across the street where the house was and put it off of piers and put it on the ground here. And it's been sitting there for 20 years on the ground. It's a wood building, so it's moldy, rotty, rotten, and falling apart. But it's sad to see that. We didn't even know it was there, right, Sheree? And Sheree was, we were all surprised when they called us to tell us that it was even there. But it's unfortunate. I think it was long past the ability to save it.
And I walked through that as well.
Yeah,
And it's the smallest bathroom I've ever seen. I mean, I was very intrigued with the bathroom. I have to say that was the smallest bathroom I think I've ever seen, which convinced me I can, you can put a bathroom anywhere.
I have an observation about this. I wrote to the city manager today to let him know that it does have historical significance, and I knew already that it was in very bad shape. My observation is that, given the historic significance, someone, either Presbyterian Church or, the Historical Society should document this building with photographs. And I don't know if there are any architectural features that are salvageable. We should probably look at that. There might be windows, doorknobs, any artifacts that are left. And it is very sad. I have a handwritten history written by my grandmother. And it was Dr. Ford that invited and encouraged my grandfather to come to town and be an additional doctor. So it's very sad.
I'm gonna open it up for public comment at this time. Do we have any public comment on it? Okay, there's no public comment. Karen, if you would do a roll call, please.
Commissioner DeVito?
Aye.
Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner Banks?
Aye.
Commissioner Burton? Aye. Mayor Myers?
Aye. Okay, so Charles, would you, I guess if you want to reach out to Presbyterian Church and,
Who's the contact?
um,
I was never contacted directly.
Kitty Miller was, she was the one that, no, Susan Fraser probably would be the one we could reach out to.
She's our
Let
corporate
Susan,
session.
let Susan know that thank you, for this generous donation, but unfortunately, we need to pass it this time.
Mayor, the next item is just, I need some clarification. Back during budgeting, there was conversation about creating a grant writer position where it would be a line in the budget and potentially as much as $10,000 or $20,000. And that kind of morphed into grant writers who are only paid if they are awarded the grant. That's the relationship we currently have with Fred Fox and Associates. I did include his impressive resume. What he currently has are, I mentioned it to our planner, he recommended we have some accommodation because sometimes grant writer may have their favorite grants, and they tend to only go after those grants. They know they can get the grant and then get paid. So I need some, before I put out an RFP or we create a position, I need to kind of know what's the direction of the commission, the nature of that RFP. We're looking for an ongoing, or they're paid every month a stipend, and they seek out grants and their self-performance measures, or are we gonna find another, continue with Fred Fox and find another firm that operates in a similar fashion? and stick with that approach.
CPS, didn't include anything in the budget?
There currently is no.
Mayor, I have a question.
Okay, and I also want to make a notation before I take that, is that, at your desk, you'll see that we had, a citizen who wrote in, on some grants.
There's a letter placed at your place.
So, there's a letter there at your place. Okay, Commissioner Boucher.
Yes, and by the way, the letter that we received, I thought was very well researched and very complete. And I think what I'm about to say is pretty much in line with some of the recommendations. I don't know what money we have in the budget because there's nothing, we budgeted everything to the penny for the following year, correct?
Correct.
So the only way that we can pay for this would be either if there's holdover money from 22, 23, and we don't know that yet, right?
We haven't officially come out. I did pull up the summary of the last fiscal year that was in your October packet. And if you look at, if you were to go back, I know you don't have it with you. In that report, we showed revenues over expenditures of about $230,000. So,
Okay. So my thoughts are these. To me, I don't think Crescent City is in a position right now to do another salary position. It would seem to me the most practical to do something on contract. Fred Fox, only as I understand it, he works on commission and that he is only paid if he grant, which means not all grants allow the grant writer to be paid from the grant. The tree grant that you and I are working on right now does not allow that. So, and I also talked to the E-Civis organization, I talked by email, that the League of Cities gives us access to. They don't have, the website says they have a list of grant writers, they actually don't. But they recommend, as you know, the list of grants available are on all subjects. And they said it's the most practical if we would decide a core idea of what kind of grants we are looking for the city. And then issue our RFP from there. So to me, I think that we all need to put our heads together and figure out what are our target grants. And then to me, it would just be most practical to ask for a contract grant writer. And I would assume, one of the problems that you identified for me, you have one of the two licenses for E-Civis, correct?
yes.
And you said that one of the time-consuming things is to review the list of grants available and analyze what's out there, whether we have the ability to apply for it, do we have the match? I would assume that that would be one of the things that the grant writer would do. And maybe we can give them access to the E-Civis license. Those are worth $250, as I understand it. I don't know if we can or not.
Then we have to find out if we can share that with a contract and on.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but regardless, I would assume that a grant writer, there are firms that are vendors at the League of Cities conference that say they do grant writing of all different kinds. But to me, I just think a contracted position, and we need to do some discussion about what we think would benefit us most.
Well, I could do the RFP for contractual agreement, and then part of their proposal would be, they'll charge us X to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Probably their typical contract and measures of success and so forth, and see what we get, bring that back to you for your consideration.
But should we not be giving them some idea of what area we want to?
Well, it would include, economic development, parks,
A generalization.
infrastructure, those kinds of things, but then let them come back and go, I'll do that for this much money, and we see the proposal, and you guys can choose from there.
Because one thing that I found today is that the Florida Finance Housing Corporation right now is putting out all kinds of RFPs for housing development, redevelopment, whatever, and there's a slew of them.
Housing could be one of our categories.
So anyway, that's my thoughts on that.
So I'd bring the RFP back to you first to approve before issuing it, so I could bring that back and, take it from there, that's consensus.
That'd be good.
I was really struck reading the list of Fred Fox's resume there, and just the huge number of grants that he does, and I'm like, well, why don't we have any of these? But I guess, we have to have a project that needs a grant, we don't have a grant looking for a project. So, I mean, if we tell them that that's what we wanna do, then we'll go after those, but, I think we need someone that maybe is a little bit more of a, working for us directly, and it's like a self-starter, trying to find some money for us that we need. Instead of us saying, Fred, we're gonna do this, give us some DPG grant and stuff. Fred does great work, he's been doing it for years for this thing, and, at one time we had two grants, Betsy Jordan or some, or that, I don't know if she's around anymore, it might be worth looking for somebody, I mean,
She's the executive director of the Northeast Florida. Cities.
They always have to have the children that.
But she is good as far
Yeah,
as.
they're really stepped up there for a while.
Right, and matter of fact, just follow up on Commissioner Lori. Yeah, okay, so I had a similar thought, I looked at all these different categories of grants, and, obviously, I think you can only have one CDBG at a time, is that right, Charles? In progress.
You can have more than one, if one is economic development, I believe there's two different categories.
Right, but I mean, you can't just have,
Correct, yeah, now they're doing infrastructure, we're done until that's done.
right, so, but there are like USDA community facility loan grants. There's just quite a few listed in Fred's portfolio that, I think we should be taking a look at, because they sound like they address our needs.
USDA rural development is a really great source for grants, and that's how we got the wastewater treatment plant is built.
And
That's
we,
what we're paying back for that capital. We
and
have a lot of money.
Charles has spoken to, is it Mary at USDA?
Yes.
Yeah, Mary, I've spoken to her also, and one of the concerns that they have is with the amount of reserves that we have on hand, and that's getting in the way of some of our grants, so we've got, and that's something that hopefully, I know Fred has probably spoken to us about that too, and how we get around that, so that needs to be also for discussion, but I like the idea of keeping them kind of just generalized. This is the areas that we're looking at, because for us to try to agree on something, that really, I'm just lengthy. Okay, so with that, so do you want a motion for us to?
No, I think I have mine.
You're good?
That direction.
Okay.
The next item, last month you, the commission asked us to bring this back, further discussion, switching to a special magistrate. In the meantime, we distributed to you a pin drive with the audio from the code meeting. We've also found the state statute which says that a quasi judicial board does not have state public comment because of the nature of the board. So now it's up for your consideration.
One question I have is, does our code enforcement board get any sort of training when they join the board? As far as?
No.
No, what a quasi judicial meeting, because I heard them talking about that, they didn't even know what that word meant, and I'm just wondering, isn't there something that they should be?
There's training available, but, the members have not participated.
Well, Mayor, I follow, but so where is the training available?
Through the Florida Association of Code Enforcement.
But I mean, do you have to go somewhere, or can you take it online, or?
You have to go and attend the class. And they're given all over the state.
It's like FRA training, like board training for FRA. Yeah.
Okay. Or do any of our other boards get training? I mean,
CRA board. You just went to the redevelopment conference.
no, I mean, I remember you said to me once, that you didn't think planning and zoning, I mean, that they could be more knowledgeable, that there was not training for them, or that there had previously been training for them. I don't know, my thought is, I'm not really sure, what all this is about. It's, I think that, I don't know, is this a commissioner initiative, or is this something that the city manager is raising? Because the memo last month said that you had talked to several commissioners, and they wanted this to be on the agenda.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so, but then the presentation at the October meeting was primarily from you. And we didn't have a commission discussion.
So now we're gonna have this,
have
a commission discussion on this, and this is something that we've brought up numerous, several times. I believe even before, before I was elected, I think it was brought up that we go to a magistrate. And this is in no way derogatory towards the current board, but when you go to a magistrate, and I think what you have in a small community, you have some obstacles. One of the obstacles is, they ask that on your code enforcement that, when possible, that you have an architect, a business person, an engineer, a general contractor, a subcontractor, and a realtor. My understanding is we don't need any of that. I don't know that she's a realtor. Is she a realtor?
She has.
She works at a realty office.
She has real estate experience.
She has real estate, okay, so we do meet possibly one of those. But when you go to a magistrate, you're dealing with an attorney who is versed on code enforcement.
Correct.
And so he understands the ins and outs, and so that to me, and I started looking at various communities that have gone to a magistrate. I know Palatka has, I know DeLand has, there's just a list, you could name all of them that have gone to this, and it just seems to me that it's a safer, I don't know, safer is not the word I wanna use, but it's just a better option, it's a more objective option. Compliance is always what we're looking for. But at the same time, if everything that comes to us, we mentioned to our code board several times that, compliance is important, but at the same time, you have to have some consistency, and you've got to just not let everything just say, okay, well, you're in compliance, so we're gonna drop your fine. Otherwise, everybody would continue to go down that path.
Correct.
And with a magistrate, I just don't think you're gonna have that, and I like the fact that they would be objective. And while they'll have compliance, they'll also make sure that people realize that there's gonna be consequences.
Right.
So that's just my thought on it, something that, I think we've talked about off and on. Again, it's not derogatory towards the code enforcement, but I think this is something that we should definitely consider.
I think more and more, communities are going to a magistrate. It makes a little more sense, especially for a small area like ours, we all know each other, nobody really wants to get after your neighbor, because you gotta live next to them. We now have the whole code enforcement where you've gotta tell everybody, that you're the one that turned them in, and so that's not happening either, because people they don't want restitution, is that right? They don't want
Retribution.
retribution, thank you. I'm getting a little tired, I guess. But, and the other thing too is, as soon as it ends up in our hands, now we're kind of put on the spot to make that decision. And I don't think any one of us here really are comfortable, at least I'm not comfortable being the judge of that, okay? The judge and the jury on that. That's why we have a code board, is to set that up and go with it. So I think the magistrate would just be a way to be a little more professional about the way things get done.
My concern though is if a magistrate makes a decision and they want to appeal it, it does not come to us.
No,
It goes to the circuit court.
because they have 30 days.
So we're giving that control away from us, out of the hands of the city and out of the city commission. Which to me is worrisome. I mean, I think that, people look to us as being kind of the ultimate authority, kind of how things happen in the city. I mean, that's sort of what our function is, I don't know. And if someone has a problem with code enforcement, they can always, if they don't agree with the code enforcement board, they come to us and they say, hey, this is what happened, and they get another chance. Once you start saying, no, I'm sorry, you gotta go to court, we have nothing to do with it. And that to me just makes me uncomfortable. Because it is.
We're not lawyers, we're not lawyers though. We're not people that should make some of these decisions.
But
And a lot of times we don't understand. It's like this one, when I looked at it today, I had to come in, I did talk to Dan to just kind of get, what really was going on. And, it's just a lot of stuff that we spend a lot of time on that I think can be relayed to somebody that understands the issue and can take care of it much more efficiently than what we do.
And I don't think it's written in stone either. I mean, this is something that if we find in the magistrate, that if we were to go to a magistrate, that if it didn't work out, if the citizens didn't like that process, it could come back to us, correct, Bobby? And we could,
Yes.
and then we could reestablish, a code board. There was some questions I had, and I've been doing some research and reading on this, and it says that you're also supposed to employ an attorney as an advisor. Is that correct, Pam? That our code board?
The code board should have an attorney.
Okay, they should have an attorney.
Yes.
Okay, and then I also saw in there that when they reach a decision, that they possibly shouldn't be appealing it to us, it shouldn't be coming to us,
No.
it should go to the circuit courts. It
Correct.
should go to the courts anyway.
Yeah, it comes before the commission in Crescent City, because that's what the commission has always wanted to have happen. And they're not really appealing, they're not
Right,
contesting or appealing
we're just,
the code board's decision. The commission has asked the code board to make a recommendation. And then you being a governing body has final say on whether you accept the recommendation or not. You can turn that all over to the code enforcement board or to the special magistrate, either one. And they've always had the 30-day appeal to the circuit court. That's something that's always been in place. I've been in code enforcement 40 years, and it's always been there, that they have that option. If they're not happy with the code enforcement board, they appeal it, the decision, to the circuit court. So they're really not appealing the code board's decision.
I understand, I understand.
that's removing us.
Mayor, could I say something, please? So, the idea of a special magistrate was brought to us, about 2 years ago. And,
It was brought prior to that too.
well, I said about 2 years ago.
Well, I've been here 3 years, but it was brought prior to us being here too, so. Yes.
Right, Jay Esmer brought it to us. So, I don't, the memo that's in the packet for this week is not really complete. I share Commissioner Roy's concerns. It's a special magistrate, and we should have this in the packet. We're just kind of going on what we say. But the special magistrate process it's a judicial hearing. The people who go before the special magistrate have to conform with the strict rules of evidence. It's harder for the member of the public who has to go before the special magistrate, who may or may not know our community. And then if the appeal is to the circuit court, I don't even know what it costs to file an appeal in the circuit court now, but it's not cheap.
I think the idea though is,
I'm not finished.
Well,
Okay, Commissioner Burton, let's let her finish. Commissioner DeVito, please finish.
Okay, well, Commissioner Burton had her time to talk.
I
You had your
Commissioner
time to
DeVito,
talk.
I just gave you your time, please
Thank you.
finish.
Okay, but I feel like I'm under pressure here. So it's more expensive it's more difficult for the person who has to go before the special magistrate. They may feel that they have to have an attorney, which most people here won't have. If they then are forced to go to Palatka to appeal, they may not be able to afford the filing fee, they may not be able to afford the travel. I think that we're qualified to do this work. And I feel that it's part of our responsibility to the residents of Crescent City for us to do this work. I'm not willing to punt it to a special magistrate. And as well, Palatka has a code board. I just looked up their latest minutes. Their town attorney, Patrick Kennedy, advises the code board. Someone came beside someone with a case to ask a question. The League of Cities encourages municipalities to have boards, which creates citizen involvement. So I just think it's our responsibility. I think every time we hear a case, we learn more about our community and we are better connected to our community. I just think it's something that we do that's part of our responsibility and our service, and I'm just not willing to not provide it.
Thank you. Commissioner Burton, we'll allow you to finish.
you know, I've lived here for approximately 5 years, and one thing that I hear from the commission quite often is, geez, we want to get after people that have lawn grass, and we want to get after homes that are boarded up, and we want to take care of blight, and we want to do all these things. And then, you know, the code enforcement person goes through, they write up a lien, and it comes here, and most generally, we're easy on that. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be easy under certain circumstances, but on the same hand, okay, if you make it difficult for people to conform, in other words, the more difficult you make it, I think they will conform to what the code enforcement lien or whatever it is that we've put on them. I don't think we even need as many as what we do. Most people here in Crescent City know if it comes to the board, most generally it goes to zero, or it goes to very little money that people pay as a penalty for being out of. Oops. I just want to make sure they're okay back there. But the conformance.
You need some help, Charlotte, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms.
Captain. Thank you, Captain. Ms. Tischler, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Charlotte, Angela, thank y'all so much for sitting through this. It was a joy to see your faces in the audience.
Yes, thank you.
It was. Be safe. Okay.
So basically, you know, when we start writing this stuff up, it's really called blight. And we need to somehow be a little more firmer on taking care of it. We're not very strong at taking care of it right now. And, you know, we gotta make our minds up how we wanna play this moving forward. And some of these houses have been in these conditions for well over 15, 20 years. Then all of a sudden they come and they have a $50,000 lien on them. I mean, that's crazy. That's just crazy. And some of this should be cleaned up fairly quickly, I think, with a magistrate.
Well, wait a minute, the problem is not that we're not making the decisions to enforce the fines. I mean, actually, we impose some pretty hefty fines.
Not very often.
Well, I'm the one that's usually proposing that we collect fine. As I understand it, and frankly, I think we need to table this for further investigation, but as I understand it, the, how much, $500 or $1,000 a month that would be spent on a special magistrate, if you want to clear the backlog of liens, would be to pay Pam for more time or to hire someone to assist her. Because a lot of these liens, as I understand it, are just sitting there. We're not foreclosing, isn't that correct? Like,
We don't usually foreclose.
right, and aren't you working on a process of identifying the outstanding liens on the property? And the paperwork is not in good shape, as I understand it from what you said
In most
before.
cases, it's not.
Right.
In most cases, it's not in good shape.
When it's not in the computer, like everything before is still in files, right?
It's still paper.
Right. You have it on the computer, your piece of computer now, so it's easier to track it, so.
So it's partly an administrative issue. We don't have anyone bringing cases before the code board. I mean, I think you've initiated some of that, is that not correct?
I have.
Right, but you can only do so much, correct?
Correct.
Right, so part of the problem with houses sitting there with fines on them is an administrative problem that the city is not bringing forward. They're just, they're just not actionable yet, is that correct?
Commissioner
I
Burke?
have only one more thing to say. If anybody saw the last meeting that took place with code enforcement, it was pretty, apparent, okay, that we have a group of people that want to take it over as a discussion period for whatever it is they want to discuss. And in this case, unfortunately, the discussion was about me and Tracy Eckert and signatures and notes that were left and sent out that supposedly I've done all this. This is not what code enforcement meetings should be about. And I find that that seems to be where it's headed. It just seems to not be professional like it was at one time. And that's the way I feel. We need to get back to some type of professionalism. And if we can get professional again and maybe come back, as Bobby says at some other point in time, to a code enforcement board, that's fine. But right now, I think it's out of control. We already had one person quit because of that meeting. It was disgusting.
Did you listen to the meeting?
No, I didn't. I did not listen to the meeting. It may be frustrating, but,
It's not frustrating, it's way out of line. Excuse me.
I just want to say that, you know, first of all, it looks like one of the first problems is our code enforcement board needs training. I mean, they need to know what their job is, because from listening to that meeting, or the meeting and the audio, I don't think they understand what exactly they're doing, or what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, I'm sure they're doing the best they can, I can understand that, but, I mean, some of the comments that the chair was making, I was just shocked. And it was not very, you know, it was not, I was a little bit embarrassed that they were our code enforcement board, because I did not feel like they were representing the will of the commission and the city, and really representing Crescent City very well.
And how they refer to the commission,
Right.
who appointed.
Yeah, I thought, I was very insulted by that. I hope they weren't meeting me.
There are representatives, these are the people we have trusted to represent us.
You know, and I know that there was a problem before, that's why we talked about the special magistrate before, and then, things kind of, you know, got better. I think maybe we just need to examine, you know, make sure that they understand what we would like them to do and what their job is. Because just the fact that they did not know what quasi judicial is, and did not understand the explanation of it, was quite worrisome to me.
Well, I will say this, that we've had this discussion with them before, and they all sat across the back, and they all came up and spoke, and they all sure, yes, I'm pretty sure that they're pretty much the same. The only new appointment's been Ms. Sykes.
Yes, I know, yeah.
Yeah, she's the new one. They sat across the back, and they assured us that I guess that they heard what we were saying. And then almost immediately, we got recommendations, and I even remember saying, Pam, you know, did your code board, I mean, did they not listen to us? And
I was
so,
disappointed in the way that they were just,
and so that's, so I feel like, are we going to just say this again? I mean, at some point, we're gonna have to stand up and say, okay, maybe we need to go in a different direction. And if it doesn't work, then we reel it back in, and we always have that option. Some of these people, some of our code, when was the last time the terms had even expired? Is that correct? And they haven't been reappointed?
Correct.
Can we just replace them all? Just start again?
We can do that
Would
too.
it be easier than starting with the?
Except for the problem is that we had 7 members. You know, in statute, you're required to have 7, except for our size, we could come down to 5. She couldn't get a quorum. That was a big issue. She couldn't get a quorum. So we brought it down to 5 members. And it's my understanding this month you couldn't get a quorum. Is that correct?
In October.
In October, I'm sorry, in October.
Or maybe
I have
the problem is the enforcement board itself, is the people that are on
in October, but not.
And that's a tough one. That's a tough one to,
it.
I have a list
I mean,
here.
I don't want us to just spend all this time on this, but we have to talk some of these out, because the problem is, I don't wanna be on the code enforcement board. I mean, a lot of people are gonna say, I don't wanna be on code enforcement because my neighbor might not take care of their house, and I'm gonna have to see them every morning when I take or the days I take my garbage out. Or I'm gonna run into them in Dixie. And it's tough, I mean, my hat's off to them, those that are willing to serve. And I said in the beginning, this is something I've been talking about for some time, it has nothing to do with the members. I'm appreciative of what that they're willing to serve. But if we do replace them, are we gonna be able to find, okay, people that are willing to serve?
If I may, first, I think, it was at least 2 years ago, if not more, that the issue of a special magistrate was discussed. And the issue was not the behavior or demeanor of code board members. I think that was when Rich Brooks was the chair, wasn't he the chair, Diane?
I'm sorry?
Wasn't Rich Brooks the past chair?
Yes.
Right, and he's moved out of town. So it was a completely different issue. I really don't know where it came from. I don't even think we're allowed to tell the code board what to do, actually. I did some reading 2 years ago about that. Because they're supposed to be a quasi judicial body. We don't know that other people will not be willing to serve. We've always had people step up to the plate. And, so I think that would be the first line of defense. And my observation is this. We once had somebody come and speak at the commission, and they were very critical of city staff and the mayor, and that person got into some sort of argument. And afterwards, Commissioner Banks said, sometimes you just have to let people talk, even if they're ill-informed, and it will just all kind of pass over. And frankly, I don't know what they said. I'm very uncomfortable with this whole process. We've never had an issue with this before. I've been to for example, our P&Z board. We had a member of the P&Z board, a member of the public came and complained to the commission a couple of years ago that they were insulting and derogatory. We didn't do anything about that. And actually, the P&Z board couldn't get a quorum in October. At the last.
Okay, well, that's not, we don't
This
have.
is talking about
I know, but we're going on and on and on.
Okay, could I finish without someone interrupting me?
Finish your point, please.
Yes, so my point is, the planning and zoning board did not have a quorum in our October meeting. And as well, at the last P&Z meeting that I went to, there were some very inappropriate things that were said about, different categories that are, that were very ageist and basically really things that shouldn't be said. And they were said, but we're not talking about getting rid
That's
of
not
the
what we're
P&Z
talking
board.
about, no.
Okay, I'm saying they were inappropriate things, no one said anything. Inappropriate things may have been said, but I don't think that's necessarily a reason to throw the baby out with the bathwater. maybe, they should receive counseling from the city manager, they should receive education, and certainly if people's terms are up, then I don't know why we would not do what all of our other boards, to advertise for, people to either reapply or someone else to be appointed.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion, I need a motion on
Okay,
this.
I want to make a motion to direct the staff to draft an ordinance to switch from a code enforcement board to a special magistrate.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
You second? Okay. Do we have any further discussion? No. Okay, at this time, I'm gonna open it up for public comment. Please come forward, state your name, you have 3 minutes, please.
Diane Sachs, 304 Chestnut. I was around when it was proposed the last time that we get a special magistrate as opposed to a board. I'd like for the commission or staff to investigate what was investigated then and why was it voted down. Maybe we need some history about this before we proceed, because it doesn't seem like right now the commission knows what happened or why. So I think we need more investigation before a decision is made. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll have that opportunity while they're drafting, because it's, okay.
Tracy Eckhart from my North Prospect. I happen to be one of the people that they were talking about at that code meeting, and I was appalled. I was appalled by the total behavior of that group. There was only one that didn't participate with the nonsense that was going on. He's the one that resigned because of all that. And I would strongly encourage you to go with the magistrate, because again, it's not set in stone. If it doesn't work out, then you can change it back. But I think that you, as commission, the leaders of this community, need to make a statement to these people that behaved the way that they did. And it wasn't just about me or Commissioner Burton. They were just very ill behaved. It was very unprofessional. It was embarrassing. And I would hope that, you could do better. I mean, to think, I don't understand the thought process that you think you need to have total control over it. And that just doesn't make any sense at all. But please go to the special magistrate.
Do you have any other speakers?
Danny Miller, our existing citizen board is, a group of local citizens, peers of the people that are appearing before them. It's an informal process. It's at no cost to the citizens. There's appeal to the commission. There's no lawyer involved. It's a model of local self-government. What's being proposed is an alternative is the very antithesis of local self-government. Much more formal. Maybe a lawyer will be required. Appeal is to the court. And instead of friends, neighbors, peers, it's frankly a hired bureaucrat from out of town. The goal that I'm hearing is to encourage compliance. And you get that through Gail doing her job and going out and getting people's attention. The solution that I'm hearing batted about seems to be twofold. One is administrative, and it's the kind of old cases, I guess, or kind of the crux of it. I got caught up in that personally. And training of your code enforcement board. And I wonder if the folks sitting on the code enforcement board were made aware of this training. Perhaps going forward, it might be required. But all this, sense springs from a very high level of frustration. Some people being personally offended by, I guess, inappropriate things that were said. I'm suggesting the solution is not spending more money and increasing the bureaucracy of the city. We're a small town. Let's continue with, local self-government, our peers at work volunteering, being involved, feeling included. And, as opposed to looking for kind of out-of-town solutions at cost. Thank you for your time and attention.
Do we have any other speakers?
George Miller, 100 Lakeshore Drive. My brother said most of the stuff that I was thinking, but the decision you just made on Orange Avenue, we all live in Crescent City, you weighed the evidence, made sure compliance was made, and you made the right decision. And to me, that says a lot. I think, I've been before the board before, and they use judgment. They all live in Crescent City, and they weigh all the evidence. And I think training, would be a very, proper, for the people. I'm sure they wouldn't be opposed to it. But, I think the magistrate, all of you except for one, voted to make a very sound decision. And I don't think it was a very tough decision when you weighed all the evidence and all the facts. The compliance was done many, many years ago. And to start off, the fines is just unbelievable. But thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment. From commissioners, I'm gonna, do we have, yes?
Chapter 162 of Florida statutes governs the code enforcement.
Yeah,
board
you speaking to the, you speaking to the mic, I'm sorry, Jan.
Chapter 162 of the Florida statute governs the proceedings of the code enforcement board. The appeal process has always been to the circuit court. It's never been to the commission. If someone wanted to appeal a decision the code enforcement board made, it's always had to go through the circuit court.
Okay. So my question to you is, have we been doing it wrong all these years? Should it be that the code board has, their decision is standing? And I'm asking because I came across that today, that the code board's decision should be standing, and from there it goes to the circuit court. How is it?
They're not appealing.
I'm not saying they're appealing, but their decision is not standing, it still comes to us. So what I'm saying is, what I've read is that possibly the code board has that as a quasi judicial body, they have that ability.
They do.
Okay, and so at some point in time, it's determined that we have to, I don't know, what are we codify, or what are we doing with their decisions?
No, that's, it's just because you're the only body that can release the lien or
Okay.
lien on behalf of the city.
Okay.
That's why it comes to you, they're not appealing this actual finding that the code enforcement board made, that would have to go to the circuit court. You're just the only people that can authorize the release or the produce of the lien.
And I understand that because it requires my signature, but we also, when it comes to us, we don't always uphold their decision. Are we supposed to uphold their decision?
No.
And approve it?
You don't have to.
Okay, I'm just making sure because there was some conflicting information out there that quite possibly that it stands and.
Their decision would have been like the $200 a day.
Right.
They're not appealing that to us, when I say, no, it's not $200 a day.
I understand, what I'm asking is.
It's about like when they make a recommendation, or they say it should be 1,000 and then y'all change it.
What I'm asking is, should they not be making recommendations, should they be making final decisions?
That's up to you. That's up to the commission.
So if there's nothing in statute, so that's what I was reading, because I was reading several things, and it said that basically the code board, they made the final decision, and anything outside of that had to go to the circuit court, so I just wanted to make sure. So maybe when this comes, if whatever happens tonight, Bobby, when it comes back, just for clarification, to make sure that we're in fact doing it correctly.
If we have a case that has a fine accruing, but we haven't imposed a lien on the property, that goes before the code enforcement board, it doesn't come here to the commission at all.
Okay.
They decide, you pay X amount of dollars, or you pay nothing, or whatever they decide. And if the respondent did not like that decision, they would have to appeal it to the clerk of the court. They wouldn't come before the commission at all for that. You can give the code enforcement board the power to say, this is our final decision, and then it wouldn't come before the commission. That's up to the jurisdictions. I have here a slide too, the scheduled meetings for 2022 and 2023, where 4 meetings, we did not have a quorum. After reducing it to 5 people, we still couldn't get 5 people to come. And I did cancel 2 meetings this year for family issues myself. And in December, I have 4 cases going before the code enforcement board. And I only have 3 members. 2 have affirmed that they will be there, and 1 said he plans on being here, so I don't know if he's gonna show up or not.
And you only have 4 members right now.
We only have 4 members because John Spicer resigned.
Okay, thank you. So currently, we have a motion and a second for, Mr. Pickens to draft, an ordinance. Well, he would draft it, he drafts that. And I know there was one prior, I think I have it in my office too, that, Mr. Asbury had drafted.
The one that says the land.
I don't know, there
Yes,
was
yes.
one, I know one happened like in 2018 or something, and then there was another one.
Interlocking just switched.
Yeah.
So I'll just get it from George.
You can get it from him, okay, so you get it from George, okay, great. So with that, well, we don't know, we have to take a vote here, and I'm gonna take this to a vote, we have a proper motion and a second, and we'll do a roll call. Yes, Commissioner DeVito?
One more comment. So I hear a lot of anger, and I understand that people don't like to be insulted. But you should not make decisions out of anger. I mean, I personally on this commission have been cussed at by a member of the staff, nobody ever said anything, I just had to look at that. I have people out in the audience making faces at me, and I have to live with that. I just don't think a time of anger. I don't see any technical issues in the November 2nd memo for this particular meeting. I see just, the personal issues.
Okay, I'm not doing anything out of anger.
That
And let me
sounds-
tell you, there's, believe me, you wanna talk about having faces made and all, you gotta be thick-skinned if you're gonna be up here, so that's what we have to do. So
That's
Karen, I'm
fine.
gonna ask you, I'm gonna ask you to do a roll call for me, please.
Thank you. Commissioner Barton? Aye. Commissioner Banks?
No.
Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner DeVito?
Nay.
Mayor Myers?
Aye. Okay, so Bobby will just bring us something, and then this will give us a chance also to bring some additional research, and, we'll go from there.
We haven't passed it yet, we're just.
No, we haven't passed it, no, it hasn't
Continue to discuss
passed,
this.
it's, yeah, it's continued.
So I have a question. There's a vacancy on the code board. Are we going to advertise that vacancy so that they can have a better chance of a quorum?
Karen, is it currently advertised, the vacancy?
No, I was waiting until after tonight for this, because I wanted to get Bobby's input to see if I should advertise for it, or if I should hold off until I mean, I don't know how you want me to
Go
see
ahead,
it.
it'll take months.
You can go ahead and advertise it.
And also in
To go ahead and advertise it?
in reference to the statute that we're talking about, the new practice, can we agree that they do not need to be having public comments at the code enforcement meeting? That needs to be off the agenda, that's not even an option,
Correct, that's not an
and
option.
they're aware of that now.
They call there additional or additional public comment.
Because that's absolutely.
True.
Well,
Can we have a motion for that, so it would be in writing,
I move that,
Hold on,
please?
I just have one more comment. Since this board is so important, if we're gonna continue with the board, I believe it should be mandatory that the board get trained.
I agree, thank you. Okay, you wanna make a motion?
yeah, I want to move it that we're not having, that there's no public comment allowed at the code enforcement board meeting. According to Florida statute 216, whatever it is, sorry.
216.011.
There you go, I was off by one number.
Oh, wait a minute. That's my understanding, Bobby, you said is optional, it's
Well, I
not
think it does,
prohibited.
So the reasonable opportunity to be heard that occurs at a commission meeting or public comment, quasi judicial board is exempt from that requirement.
But the motion of hearing says that it's prohibited. This is our option, correct? That we choose not to allow public comment at our.
And you don't have to have public comment at a code enforcement board.
So his motion is saying that a code enforcement board, there will be no public comment.
Right, and that's permitted by chapter 286, but it's not prohibited.
But it is prohibited because it's quasi judicial hearing.
That's not what Bobby told me this afternoon.
I was just reading from the 216.011.
No, it says it's.
Well, it's gonna be prohibited because that's what it's going to do.
Right, I'm saying, but that's our, as I understand it, from Bobby,
Right,
that's
so,
our option.
I mean, members of the public shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard on a proposition before a board or commission. That's chapter 2. And then chapter 3 is the requirements of subsection 2 do not apply to 4. Or actually, it's D, a meeting during which the board or commission is acting in a quasi judicial capacity.
Okay.
So you don't have to have it.
Okay, so your motion, okay, let's, your motion. Do I have a second to Commissioner Lori's motion? His motion, your motion was prohibited.
To prohibit public comment from occurring at the code enforcement board meeting. Every other city that I've seen, it's not on the
In
agenda.
this case,
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Okay, Karen, would you do a roll call, please?
Commissioner DeVito,
Aye.
Commissioner Lori,
Aye.
Commissioner Banks,
Aye.
Commissioner Burton. Aye. Mayor Myers.
Aye. Okay, so moved. Just because another community does it, doesn't mean they're doing it right, so, correct, so. Okay, let's move on if we can, please, we've got approximately 18 minutes.
Fairness, I was, add the agenda requesting Commissioner DeVito to look at discussion of potential changes to our golf cart regulations after the accident that occurred in Pomona Park.
Well, and actually, it came to my mind, we've talked about golf carts and traffic and all that kind of thing for quite a while. And, after Ralph and I bought a golf cart, I looked at our golf cart ordinance so that I would be sure I was in compliance. And, if you'll, I'm not asking us to make a decision tonight, but I just laid out on the second page, some areas that to me, it's not clear that we've done everything we need to do to properly implement our golf cart ordinance. Like I don't see any markings that say we can cross 308. As well, our ordinance is a little bit out of date. I don't know that that matters so much, but our ordinance, was enacted before state law was changed apparently this year. You have to have a learner's permit.
I think
Or
they've got a
driver's
driver's license, not a learner's permit, I think they've got a driver's license.
No, it
Say
says,
learner's permit.
it says if you're under age 18, you have to have a learner's permit or driver's license. Our ordinance says that anybody 14 and up can drive a golf cart. That's been changed in state law, at least it looks like it to me. And as well, there's some areas that we can look at. We don't allow use of golf carts at night, but people do it.
Yeah.
And state law says that apparently, I mean, Bobby's the final word on this, but it looks like state law says that we could allow,
It does, a golf cart may be operated, unless the responsible governmental entity has determined that a golf cart may be operated during the hours between sunset and sunset. So equipped with headlights, brake lights, turn signals.
Right, so there's some items that I think, possibly if y'all would read this and maybe we could discuss it at the next meeting. I think there's more things that we could do to make more areas of Crescent City golf cart accessible, and that kind of fits in with, the comment that is being received for the master plan. And as well, there's things that we could do, we could change our ordinance a little bit and allow people to get more use out of their golf carts, like, being able to drive in a desk or whatnot. So that's why I'm bringing this forward.
And my concern is that, I know I was on the commission when we first passed that in 2005 or 6 or something. And one of the things is you're supposed to have a motor safety triangle on the back of it. And you're also supposed to have working brakes and I forget what's the five, there's 5 things that you have, a steering system that works and all that stuff. And we really, I don't know the last time I saw a golf cart that had an orange triangle on the back of it. And it just makes sense to you that that's something that we need to require. And we do require it by our ordinance. And it needs to be, something that we need to maybe re-educate people and rewrite it here and reinforce. I see a lot of people driving golf carts that are just scary and dangerous. And I think if we rewrite the ordinance, we can maybe have a sheriff's department enforce it a little better.
So we just need to do an ordinance review. I think that's what this would be an ordinance review.
Well, and also administration review, because there's just some areas of town, like, I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking that maybe, I really don't know for sure, because the state law and ordinance fit together, and you don't always, you have to flip back and forth. One question I have is, do we need to have marked crossings on 308 for people to legally go across? And that means, people on my side of town, are they legally getting up to Winn-Dixie and the post office and all that kind of thing, and vice versa?
The state says something about that when they.
It's process that.
It's 17, it's not 18. I'm not sure that we've done what the state requires us to do. But anyway, y'all can all read this, we can go out and look around town, and we can ask people, we can see what we think and what they think.
Okay.
I know, the town of Alaska requires you to register your golf carts, and it's an annual fee. And I believe part of that is having them inspected to make sure that they're following the rules. I hate to fee or to charge you additional, but that might be something that we might look into as far as enforcement goes.
And I've had some conversations with a neighbor in there about that, and I'm not even sure if they're allowed to charge that fee.
As a new part, we should have to repeal the inspection, the starting fee, everything.
They could, so.
Well, I'm not suggesting.
And they're going through, and the last thing we're gonna do, we're relaxing, they're going through a lot right now with their whole, with that whole thing. So anyway, with that, let's move on to the next one. Your homeless point in time count.
Correct, and as you folks have noticed, we seem to be having an increasing homeless population. There was a young man sleeping on a bench when we had the meeting, was it last night? Or last. But anyway, I've brought this to y'all's attention before. So, the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development requires a point in time count for homeless persons at least every other year. The continuum of care that's based in Gainesville and includes Putnam, will be doing the point in time count, or organizing it rather, for a 5-county area. The date has been set for the week of January the 22nd. Between now and January, there will be training dates. There's a need for volunteers and other resources, and that will be announced by the planning committee out of Gainesville. So just for everybody to know, it's that week. I'm serving on the planning committee this year for the 5-county area with my focus on Putnam. SMA Healthcare is participating, the Housing Authority, part of Putnam and Palatka. But the main thing is, it's that week. Anyone who wants to help with the count in any way, either serving as a volunteer or helping to organize, or maybe helping with an event that we might invite homeless people to educate them about the count, feel free to contact me. So, and if you have any questions, I'm sure.
What does this count to? Because they're counting them, and then Putnam County still has an assistant. So what happens with this count? What's the purpose of this count serve, other than to say we have 25 homeless here in Crescent City?
Well, for one thing, it's required for the continuum of care by the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department. Putnam County does get some money from the continuum of care. Catholic Charities out of St. Augustine has a grant or is given some money, and they have an office in Palatka. And as well, the domestic violence shelter in Palatka gets some money. I am trying to figure out how more money could be directed towards Putnam. It's an issue of capacity. We do not have agencies with, bless you, we do not have agencies with sufficient capacity that are able to step up to the plate and do the grant application. But I can tell you this, if people are not counted and we are not deemed as having any homeless people, then we will not be eligible for any further dollars.
Okay.
And I know one of our county commissioners is now on the board of the Continuum of Care representing Putnam County. Rural representation is a real issue. So I think hopefully we will get a little bit of momentum, but it's not a good thing to have, to be undercounted. That's just a bad way to start.
Okay.
It could affect money going to the domestic violence shelter and to the contract with Catholic Charities.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think with that, we're gonna go to city manager. Do you have anything outside of your?
Just one thing, you have, next week, Monday, the workshop on goals and objectives.
You cancel it?
No. Tuesday, we have a workshop on the land development code update. I think we're gonna need one more land development code update workshop, hopefully in December. Try to finish up that review. And then we didn't, obviously, to do the personnel manual, the last workshop, so we need to schedule a date for the personnel manual, to go over that.
What are we hoping with the goals and objectives? What is the goals and objectives? I mean, our time, we're doing a lot of workshops and so with the goals and objectives, knowing that we've got this, strategic plan coming to us, what are we doing with the goals and objectives? What are we hoping to accomplish? What is our goal?
Goals and objectives is to set goals and objectives for the operation of the commission, if you read the folder, and also to take a more, a more strategic look at the strategic plan. Because we don't have implementing steps or priorities for the strategic plan.
Strategic.
Right. I mean,
Is it something that we do now, or do we do after we have our strategic plan, and then we have our goals and objectives then?
no, well, okay, just,
Master plan.
I'm
We
sorry.
have a strategic,
We have a strategic, but we have.
That's discussed last year, right? That's at least a year old, so we time to update it and review it.
We could, I prepared a slide show that show what's in the plan and what we've accomplished of those goals and objectives.
And the plan's always says.
But I think this is beyond that, from what I got from Mr. DeVito, it's more commission manager relationship and
I don't think I'm ready for it, are they? Not sure.
Well, this is
That's Mondays in
this,
general, or?
this is,
I have a doctor's appointment Monday, so I've already had to cancel it for one of our other workshops and so on.
right, well, this is a workshop that was on the agenda months ago and it was canceled for some reason. Some commissions, meet at the beginning of the year for a retreat and discuss all kinds of issues, how to work better, how to get more things done, what they want to be the priorities for the year. And I thought it would be a good idea for us to have a meeting to discuss how we do things and also, as BJ said, to review and update our strategic plan.
We're not going to be bad for us to talk about something.
Okay.
I mean, if that's.
And no, I haven't read my folder yet.
I just,
I'm sorry, I will read it
There's
before
always
Monday, but I
something.
haven't read it yet.
I think you've seen everything in it.
Well, I have, I'm sure I have.
I think you have. There's like-
what I'm asking is pick a date in December for the land development code. Try to finish that up.
In December,
That's good, 'cause I don't know.
Well, and also would we be finding a date for the personnel manual?
Yeah,
That'd be my preference. I hope we can find 2 days.
Okay, so you want 2 dates? Okay.
I'm going to get some specific folks.
The 7th, the first Thursday of the month.
I'm good.
What day?
The 7th. The 7th.
What time? I've got something to.
Harry, do you need a calendar?
He has one.
I got one, I'm trying to find it.
Oh, okay, because I have an old one.
I had to take it
Start
out.
at 3
You
o'clock.
should, y'all should have,
Ma'am.
one.
Can you pass this down to Commissioner Banks? It's an old calendar.
He's got it.
I got one, I'm trying to look at it.
You can keep that.
I thought we were gonna go home.
Here.
Okay, go ahead.
3 o'clock on the 7th, will that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Or like, on the code?
3 o'clock on the 7th. For December, right?
Yes, sir.
I thought we were gonna do the Christmas off.
Now, do we have something on, do we have anything on December first?
The Friday?
Yes.
No, that day
For
does
some
not.
reason I had that we had something on December first. We don't have anything on the December first, correct?
No, it's just getting ready for the parade, is,
Okay.
Yeah.
so you don't really wanna.
No, I know, but that's why I thought on one of the calendars I saw something, okay.
Right, I don't have that day.
So right now, the only thing we have in December is gonna be on the 7th at 3 o'clock. And then also on the 14th at 6 o'clock,
The
correct?
regular meeting is on 14.
And that's it.
The city manager seemed to want us to,
We need one for personnel.
have one for personnel manual.
Yes.
So I could do Tuesday the 5th or Tuesday the 12th.
I can't do anything, that whole week of really the 11th through the 17th, but, it'll be here for possibly for the 14th.
December the 5th is the code enforcement meeting at 5:30, just so you're all aware.
I don't know, could we do 3 o'clock on one day that week?
Can we just do it all on the 7th? Can we get it done? Can we do it, can we, 1 o'clock?
It's up to you all.
I-
Got squeezed out last time, so.
I mean, the personnel manual, we're just reviewing your changes to it, right?
That depends on if we have to go through it paragraph by.
I'm not sure of that. Sorry. But we're gonna do it all beforehand and kind of just have to.
Have our changes,
Yeah, like,
have our recommendations.
policy, like, that's adjusted, that kind of stuff. So that should be not more than an hour.
Commissioner Banks, are you available earlier than 3 o'clock?
No.
No.
Thursday, okay.
But if we have an hour doing that and 2 hours with LDC, we could be done by.
3 o'clock, huh?
3 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm delusional, actually, I think not optimistic, but
You want to try on the 7th,
Yeah.
personnel, and then, or LDC and then personnel, or
yeah, because that is, we're gonna be here.
the field?
Yeah. So that way,
Okay, we'll do.
Immediately following the Glen Development Code.
Immediately following,
Yes.
the ones at a time, right?
no,
Nope, and commissioners, just make sure please that you read through it and that you're familiar with it and you have your changes ready.
And
you want the personnel benefit.
Yeah, your personnel.
before we adjourn, I have one important financial question about the city manager's report. May I?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Moore.
There was, Dale made a comment in the, finance section of the report that he was not bringing forward a proposal to invest in a money market fund because we didn't approve the whole of the financial policy that was proposed. It was my understanding that we were waiting, for city staff to bring us a specific investment proposal.
Yes, well, we're waiting for the, I was waiting to get all the fund balances accurately. I'm still waiting for them to tell me where, we deposited the ARPA funds specifically in that account, so we know. And then we'll know how much of that money, we know $1 million is available for investment. And the rest of it, I was advised by our CPA that, we probably should not have invested because of pool cash. The way it works is sometimes you need it to pay when an ad valorem or something hasn't come in, We need available cash to pay bills until that comes in.
So you're gonna bring that back to us?
We'll bring
It's 10 o'clock.
maybe that specific policy back so we can invest that money.
Yeah,
It's not really
it's in
investment.
the budget, we budgeted the 70,000 and interest this year, so we're gonna be 70,000 short if we don't do it.
With that,
I move we adjourn.
okay, I need a second. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned, thank you all.
We got it right.
10 o'clock. Yep.
Did better.